All right, and welcome back to episode 61 of The Bench, powered by Wowhead, where Growl has discovered the 8th day of the week and decided to raid on it. Welcome back. How's your raid been, buddy?
Oh man, raid is interesting. Honestly, as long as I'm not a healer, I'm just enjoying it more because I have more time to learn. But yeah, things have been wild in the world of raiding for sure.
I really like this
How's
raid.
Really, it's okay. I don't know.
I'm benched on Salhadar, but
okay, so that's why you like it.
But like, admittedly, all of the bosses that have progressed and just the general vibe of the raid, I've also really liked Heroic. I didn't know how much I was going to enjoy jumping back into Mythic raiding, but this tier I've actually enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, well, first of all, I love Heroic. I think the difficulty of like bosses that take a couple pulls and then you get them down is really, really fun. You know, simple, intuitive mechanics. It's unfortunate, obviously, like you devour that content in like 2 days and then you're done with it. But I always really, really like Heroic and the early Mythic bosses. I don't know. I guess the bosses are okay. I don't really have any big complaints about the bosses. Forge Weaver was a little bit annoying, but like overall, I still liked the movement, and I thought like the min-maxing between who hits what pillar and how do we divide our damage was kind of interesting. It did a lot of these bosses kind of feel like they're really front load heavy, where like it's really really hard to start get going.
Sure.
But then once you kind of get into the fight, it's like the boss just falls over and dies.
Okay, I was kind of having this conversation in my guild the other day. Do you think that Salhadar is okay tuning wise? Because I think it's kind of expected that fight's going to get nerfed. But I was sitting there thinking about it. I was like, I don't know if this fight necessarily needs a nerf for the Hall of Fame level guilds. I understand that I think it's going to get nerfed, but I don't like. What are your just general thoughts on that fight?
So I haven't made it to P3 yet. We've only seen P1 in the intermission.
Okay.
And then like
P1 is likely what's getting nerfed.
The hardest
boss, right? Yes.
Right. I partially agree with you. It feels like a lot of the stuff is fair. It's very, very difficult, but fair. Like the soaks, for example, it feels like you have to have a defensive for literally every soak. But luckily, it's World of Warcraft in 2025, where every class has 7 defensives. So I don't know, like I just rotate between Ice Cold and G Invis and Alter and Barrier and Mass Barrier and whatever. So I think it's quite difficult, but also I don't know. I think it's definitely a fight where you have to use your brain and you have to think about things. Like I notice a lot of times with the age of Weakoras, people tend to like come to these bosses with brain off mentality and are not really troubleshooting as well as maybe they used to.
Yeah,
and
maybe.
So like the idea of like, what do we do when the beam comes through the raid? What do we do if we get this tank combo? Like, what is the difference if the soak is the first one instead of the third one? Like, how do we need to think about our position? All these things I think are like interesting, but it seems like, just follow the Weakora, stand on this spot. Here's triangle, stand on triangle. And it's like, I don't know. It's a little, I feel like people aren't troubleshooting it as well as they could. But I think it's fair for the most part. But I also didn't, like I said, I've not gotten to the last phase yet.
Squishy, you have any thoughts on the boss?
Wait, Squishy DC, did we just start without seeing if you... Wait.
Oh.
Well, he typed something... I don't know if he's even here.
Wait, he didn't type anything in our group chat either. Wait a second. This is really weird. Okay, well... okay, so...
Should we like get a guest or something?
Is
there somebody we can bring on?
I think I know a guy.
Okay.
All right, and coming to you live from the United Kingdom, we have a top 8 UK national placer, 5th place in the inaugural season of the King of Games, an AUG Evoker apologist, and a resilient key enjoyer, Farfa. Welcome.
Let's go top 16, actually. Not that good, but yeah. Hello.
Welcome back. So you've had a different experience this season than last season. You were just pugging keys, I think, last time we caught up with you, right?
Yeah, so I guess a bit of an introduction. I guess I represent like the casual aspect of semi-competitive World of Warcraft. And I think it'd be important to clarify something because a couple of the comments last time sort of maybe misunderstood like what a casual is in World of Warcraft.
Well,
I guess the best way to define it is when I say that I play the game casually, it's more so a case of time rather than mentality. So I do come at it from a perspective of trying to be as competitive as I can. I optimize my character, research accordingly. And yeah, that's kind of what I try and do with the minimal amount of time that I can dedicate. So for this tier, I suppose where we left off last time, I was kind of just, I was just the M plus pugger, essentially. So I managed to get Resi 15s done last season. And so for this season, I decided to try and commit to a guild again. So jumping back into Mythic rating is probably a step that a lot of people want to take. For me personally, it was kind of hard to get into again, just because it feels like a lot of things have like changed since the last time I raided properly, which was in Vault of Incarnates.
Okay.
So having like old logs and stuff can sometimes be a bit weird when you join a guild, guilds are very sort of perceptive of the fact that, you've got like big gaps in your resume, like why didn't you raid this tier, or what happened with like, dropping out of this tier and stuff like that. So finding a guild is pretty tough, especially when you're on a smaller schedule. I would like to shout out Raider.io, by the way, because they have a guild search function. So the guild I ended up joining, if you put enough conditions, you can actually be super, super, high ranked if you want to look at it this way. But this is the best European guild that raids twice a week, not on Sunday. So I needed a very specific schedule. I needed a guild that did not raid on the weekends, did not raid Friday, Saturday, Sunday, because I need my weekends free. And I needed a 2-day guild. And I just want to call out every single so-called 2-day guild whenever you're searching for a guild on WoW Progress or Raider.io, because there's so many fake 2-day guilds. I was looking at some of the guilds to apply to initially before the season started, and there's a whole bunch of 2-day guilds that are like, well, actually, we raid 3 days for the first month, which, in all intents and purposes, that's a 3-day guild to me. So, couldn't commit to that kind of schedule. So that's exactly what I ended up doing. I applied to a guild. Things have been going pretty well for me. Bit of a rocky start, and I suppose like it feels like things have changed so much since I last raided. Everything is so optimized. Maybe this is like a weird place to start off with, but man, it has been a massive learning curve, almost like relearning the game, because the way that guilds approach things is now there's all these assignments, weak aura packs you need to install. We currently run like Northern Sky, for example, that
Yeah.
like auto assigns a bunch of things. And for the first couple of raids, I feel like I didn't actually perform that well because I felt like I was like fighting my UI and my assignments more than I was like actually trying to be good. You know what I mean? It's so much. It is God. The gap between heroic and mythic rating is a mountain to climb. It really is.
Growl, what's your experience been like with the add-ons this tier? Because I feel like I've had a very similar experience to Farfa here.
My boy Farfa just comes out the gate truing over so many things. I'm like already thinking, first of all, I just want to point out, I love the differentiation of the idea of the word casual. So I use the word civilian in my content, and a lot of people like laugh because it's a funny word and like get mad, but like I don't mean it in derogatory at all. Cause like if anything, calling someone who like takes the game really seriously or like really enjoys WoW a casual, in my opinion, is like kind of degrading. Whether or not there are plenty of people who are probably skilled enough and smart enough to play the game at a super, super high level, but they just choose not to, right? Like they either don't want to dedicate the time or can't dedicate the time. It's a term that I actually yoinked from my time as a poker player. People use the word fish, but it's like there's a lot of very, very highly intelligent, doctors and lawyers and shit that you play poker with that are not stupid. Like you don't want to call them fish, but they're not really like students of the game in the way that you're sitting there studying and playing, whatever hours a day. So I definitely agree with that. I definitely agree with the idea of guilds being so annoying with logs and like having requirements to join. I feel like you can have an interview with a guy and talk to them and like see a little bit of their gameplay and have a way better idea of whether or not they'll be a good fit for your guild, rather than like, oh, let me look at your logs for Nerebar Palace. But like every single guild is like, oh, you don't have parses in Nerebar Palace? Like you took a break from the game. What is wrong with you? I mean, it's been a while since I had to do the guild apping thing, but I remember my first foray when I was trying to get into mythic rating. It was like literally miserable. like as someone who's been like, you know, a pretty serious nerd and playing at the top end of most games that I play, getting laughed at by like these random stupid mythic guilds who have been like ranked 500 for the last 5 years because I don't have logs. Like, fuck you, dude. Like, I don't know. It's just so annoying. And then lastly about the weak auras, yeah, I mean, I completely agree. And to be honest, it's actually taken our guild, like all mythic rating people, multiple tiers to get used to it. Like nowadays, we go into the raid and it's like, okay, most people are mostly caught up to date on their weak auras, and most people have like, we use the liquid one. But dude, in Nerebar Palace or like some of the older raids, like dude, it would be miserable. There was a time where we were doing a boss, I think it was Fyrak, and we spent an entire night trying to prog and just failing over and over at this one mechanic, only to realize that at the end of the raid night, we had spelled our hunter's name wrong in the note. And it just broke all of the assignments. And I was like looking at it, I was like reviewing a poll trying to figure out what happened. And I just see his name is spelled wrong. And then as soon as we fix it, it fixes. And it's like we literally spent an entire night progging a weak aura, and now that just happens like every single tier. Like you just have a boss where it's like, all right, it's Fractalus, guys. Everyone update your liquid whatever and sit here. And then oh, okay, 2 people have circle on their head. Why do they have circle? Oh, you know, you accidentally press copy weak aura pack and not update, and now you have 2 copies. I hate it. I really, really hate it. And I think that for all the people who are like, oh no, don't take away my add-ons, I definitely understand why there's a lot of people that like add-ons, but this stuff has to go.
Dude, it's so weird. I mean, the last tier I rated was Aberrus too, so I stopped rating about the same time that Farfa did, and I came back this tier, and it's like I remember in Aberrus we had a weak aura for Echo of Neltharion, and that's really the only one that I remember. And then I show back up this tier, and you download this weak aura pack, which historically you don't really download weak aura packs, those normally kind of suck for the raid, but now everybody has the exact same weak aura pack, and there's just 100 things on the screen, and they're in the middle of your screen too for every single boss. And I'm like, dude, I can't see my character. I'm just like, the first thing I did, like whenever we were going through heroic, is I just started moving all the anchors. I'm just like, get this shit off my screen. I can't see.
I don't know if it's like I think the best way to describe it is like half of Mythic rating isn't even just like playing your character. It's like the prep and the notes and the weak aura setup and the add-on and the assignments that all needs to be done. I just got out of Araz prog tonight, and I think for like the first 10 pulls, we were just like mucking around with weak auras, right?
Yep.
Like trying to make sure that all the assignments were correct, for like the right soak or the right knockback and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. It's weird. I don't know if we need to get into like a big macro discussion on add-ons, because it definitely begs the question of like, okay, well, what is the alternative in terms of interesting game mechanics and boss mechanics when it comes to playing the game without add-ons? Fractalis would be the best example of a cool boss potentially, had there not been any, weak auras and stuff. But one of my friends' guilds, I think they, they're also like 2.5-day raid. They killed Fractalis within like 10 pulls because it just tells you what to do, which is that a good thing? Should you have a note that comes up and tells you press defensive now, press time spiral now, move to this marker, right? Like it's odd, because I just feel like, what is the alternative, right? Like, do you just put a ton of bullet hells everywhere to
It's
like
Salvador
test your
Mythic.
reaction?
It is Salvador
Yeah.
Mythic, in which that fight is like the phase 1 of that fight is just demonic.
Yeah,
I've
so-
actually been I haven't really minded that fight on Mythic. It's definitely demonic. Like it's definitely, well, it's hard to say because we're gonna get a lot more gears. So I don't want to say it's too tough, but I do think that's a fight where it's pretty good in terms of like you have to use your brain a little bit, right? Like you have to think about this as a guild. Like, okay, there's a soak that everyone has to get in, but there's these beams that go across the room, and it's like, well, okay, let's make sure that the soak always moves in the same direction, and the people know that's going to happen, and like everyone dodges in the same direction. There's a lot of like stuff that can't really be assigned with weak auras or whatever in that fight, and I enjoy that personally. I enjoy the challenge, but like, yeah, you can't do 5 Saladars every single raid tier. That would be ridiculous.
I mean, I think it's just like the level of guild that you're going to get to. Like Saladar is fine for my guild, but like what happens whenever you have people who aren't that adept at like fast twitch movement from bullet hell while soaking a conqueror that knocks you up? You're just like, well, this is ridiculous. Also, I don't know if you've experienced this, Growl. Salvador is the exact reason that healers cannot be too strong, because every single ability on that fight just one-shots you. It is so annoying.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's something that a lot of healers have been complaining about for a lot of patches now is just healers are so strong and they push up bars so fast and
Yeah.
everyone has so many defensives. And on paper, you're like, hey, this sounds great. You know, we're really strong. But the problem is, well, they're still going to make a mythic boss that takes 200 attempts to kill, right? And so what does that look like? And it's like, well, okay, well, everything one-shots you and it's an MC, so your cheat death doesn't work. And like you need defensives or you even don't even live through that. And it's like every single healer CD is lined up and yeah, it's rough.
Are you enjoying Forge Weaver, Farfa?
Yeah, no, as a devastation evoker, it is great. It's nice to be high up on the meters. It's really weird because like trialing in a guild feels like this bizarre mix of like, okay, you know, you need to be able to like do your mechanics really well, but ultimately, like, I think especially when you're joining a guild, like they just look at parses, right? So you don't really have a choice. You kind of need to try and min-max your damage in a way that isn't like necessarily healthy, right? Like because you're trying to like min-max. For me personally, it's like, okay, well, I'm trying to like always time my fire breath to hit the adds at like the exact moment they spawn because they die really quickly in order to try be high up on the damage meters. It is an annoying mentality to have, and I do enjoy that aspect competitively in World of Warcraft, which is trying to, you know, get good parses. But like, I think people just maybe really, maybe not overestimate, but they put a lot of emphasis on damage. Like when you join a guild, like the first thing you look at is the person's parses. So you kind of have to try and always make sure that you're min-maxing in a way that maybe necessarily isn't about killing the boss. It's about optimizing your pad damage, right? It kind of sucks, but I feel like that's kind of where a lot of good parses come from, is just that type of gameplay.
Do you think it'd be better if
Yeah.
you were private logging?
I don't know, because ultimately, like, I do like having. There was a guild I was in before, like prior to this, in Dragonflight, where they private logged. So yeah, that would help, but that doesn't really necessarily do anything about the joining aspect, right?
Sure.
Because when you join a guild, they want to see like how good are you at doing damage, because there is a direct correlation. If you're good at your class, if you're good at doing damage, I think there's a natural sort of assumption that, well, they're just a good player, therefore they can also do mechanics, right?
Yeah, I think one of the things that annoys me the most about that, and I'm sure you feel the same way about this, is I don't know exactly how dev works, but I'm sure you don't necessarily want to be holding your breath for the guys, right? Like you want to just be using it on CD or when it's good for your rotation, but it's just naturally bad for your damage, right? And then on the other hand, you have people playing classes like maybe Arcane Mage or Unholy DK who want those ads to be alive because it helps their boss damage, but everyone is incentivized to just pad the shit out of the ads and blow them up instantly. And like now as an Arcane Mage, I'm having to move my cooldowns to like line it up picture perfectly. I'm sure you're doing the same thing, right? Because the ads, everyone just blows their AoE in the first 1 second the ad spawn. And it's like, well, now I have to do this too, even though this might, yeah, it definitely, I really dislike that whole versus aspect of Mythic Raid, where it's cool to be like, you know, if this is a single target patchwork boss and it just came me versus him who plays the best. But when it comes down to like trying to steal ad damage essentially, or like be greedy and not press defensives in a way, that definitely is something that turns me off from DPSing and Raid.
It's one of those things where like once you're in a good guild, then your damage isn't as relevant until it becomes relevant, right? When you're hitting enrages or something like that. It's all about like doing soaks correctly, positioning, correctly timing your defensives and stuff. There's a lot more importance on that.
Yeah.
But prior to joining a guild, like, you know, you kind of need to be able to show that you have numbers.
Have you guys had power infusion drama in your guild? I know that Dev really likes power infusion.
Honestly, no, not at all. People don't seem to really mind. They kind of all assume and know that it is just the best PI class, so I have been getting the PI. So yeah, that's been nice. I don't think there's been any issues with that, thankfully. I got
That's a good sign for your trial, by the way. Because I'm just telling you that. Let's say if we had a trial in our guild, I don't care how good that guy is with PI. If he's not playing well, he's not getting PI like as a random trial. It doesn't matter what class you play. So the fact that like, also I was gonna ask you too. I guess I don't know exactly, but I'm sure you have a lot of roles on that fight, right? In terms of like using oppressive roar and like pushing the ads and stuff. How's that been going? Do you feel like you're keeping up? Like, how do you feel? And I guess you don't have to be super specific, but like, do you feel like you can hang in that way? Like you're not really messing up that much, and you're keeping up with people, and you're getting your timings, or has it been a little bit of a struggle?
Well, again, like for the first like couple of pulls, it's like messing around with weak auras to make sure that it's assigned correctly. Because you literally just get a big giant text box on your screen saying
DC.
CC, right? So it's very hard to fail. You know,
Don't tell that to Michael.
like the only things we were doing wrong realistically is like everyone was just trying to get comfortable with like, you know, the pixel stack. And making sure that, you know, when you do spawn an ad, if you're the guy who's knocking, you need to knock in a way that you sort of take a step back, aim for like half a second, and then you hit them in the same direction. Because if you use a knock in the middle of a pack, they just go everywhere, right? So it's been relatively simple. Because again, like there's just a giant box on the screen that shows up and says knock now. So it's kind of not that hard, really. Once you get into the flow of things. But again, like going back to the whole like administrative stuff of Mythic rating, for the first like week or two, I've just been fighting my computer more than I've been like fighting bosses. I've noticed like I'm buying a new computer just for WoW, by the way.
Because actually one of us.
Mythic rating for half its year, bro. I very much am considering that as well. So I ended up having some computer problems. I immediately order a new PC because it's like my job. I can't have my computer down. I get the PC, but then I end up getting my stuff fixed and ended up being a faulty monitor. And now I have this brand new PC that I'm gonna probably return. But I mean, like it's an upgrade.
Okay.
Like I don't know, maybe I just take it out of the box and just use it. Because what if I get better FPS in raid? Like sometimes I, accidentally double missiles, or I use an extra barrage and I drop my charges. Like if the computer will help me get a better parse.
This is it must be like a Blizzard problem, because for the last like 2 tiers, right? So that's like almost a year of just coming back to World of Warcraft after Dragonflight for playing War Within. I've just been playing Mythic Plus, and in a 5-man environment, it's completely fine. I have like 100+ FPS. But as soon as you go into a raid, especially heroic where there's like 30 people, dude, I was doing Demencius with like 10 FPS during that intermission. Like it's miserable.
Have you messed around with the spell effect stuff where you're able to limit okay.
I think Quasi has like an optimized rating guide on YouTube, so I just followed his like settings and stuff, and I made sure to go through everything. And yeah, I went through all of that, and I was still having FPS issues on Demencius. Background sort of tangent. So had a bit of an issue with my computer. It's like 7 years old. Yu-Gi-Oh players will know this.
7 years.
7 years.
It's an old PC. Yeah. I turned off my fans for like a year plus, because when I was recording on YouTube and getting big in the content creation scene, my fans were making a lot of noise that was coming into my microphone. So I just turned them off, which my CPU now runs at like 90 degrees plus, by the way.
Ooh.
But yeah, it's crazy. Like Mythic rating has caused me to invest in a new computer because I don't want to raid with 20 FPS. Like even today, when like the ads spawn on Araz and like all of the discs are flying out, the prime sequence, it's like 20 FPS. There's like weak auras, spell effects, freaking horns, and whatever the hell is like going on in the background. Like it's a rodeo of just nonsense. And your computer just like, you need a good computer to play WoW. It's so crazy because like I play Elden Ring or play other games and I like just smooth sailing, right? But in WoW, because of the old tech, it's all processing power.
Yeah.
It was annoying.
Yeah, I mean, the 9800X 3D. There is also a bug on the patch. I don't know. I know you said you watched the Quasi video. There's been a bug on the patch where the I think it's like spell effects or whatever. It's like your ability to be able to see like friendly spells. That apparently isn't working in the main Blizzard UI. And you have to either download a weak aura to be able to edit it or go through advanced interface options. That might be something to look into to reduce the amount of spells that you see from your allies, because those definitely will chug your computer on like Demencius, like you're saying, when you get like 10 FPS. But everybody in my guild on Demencius P2, I'm pretty sure, is just, yeah, I got like 45 FPS. I'm sure this is fine.
Yeah, the 30-man
I'd do anything for 45, man.
Yeah.
Watching the Echo stream through the through the world first. I don't know if Liquid was also powered by AMD, but I just have that 99800 XDD in my head or whatever the hell. So I
Yep.
went and got that.
That is the best CPU for World of Warcraft by like a lot. So you made a good
Okay,
buy.
can't wait. Can't wait.
Okay, so something about rating. I actually wanted to circle back to. You talked about the administrative stuff. How have you found like social circles attached to rating? Because I feel like that's one of the bigger things that's actually kind of been lost whenever more people are going to like, play Mythic Plus as like a solo player. I feel like one of the most commonly asked questions is like, how do you make friends? Historically in WoW, you would just have friends from people that you rated with because you're kind of attached to them. And so you would just have people that are of your similar skill, at least, that you kind of can play with. How have you found the social circles attached to rating, Ben?
Yeah, so joining a guild is weird because I don't know anyone here. I'm not friends with anyone, or like was before, right? So I have no idea who any of these people were when I applied. So it's strange because at the same time, it is important to me to be in an environment where it's like I can make friends with these people, right? So I had a bunch of like conditions and caveats, making sure that like I investigated a little bit about the guild environment, what's the vibe like and stuff like that. Thankfully, it's been amazing. Honestly, this guild has been mostly, completely fine in that regard.
Mostly.
Well, it's just like I think naturally every guild is going to have like groups of friends and stuff. So week one was kind of hard, right? Because everyone just has people in the guild that they were going to 5-stack M plus with. So on the first week, day one of the new patch, I had to solo M plus. Like I just played with either myself or one of my other friends from a different guild. We just soloed M plus to like get some gear on day one. And that's just because no one in the guild or everyone in the guild kind of already had their groups that they were going to play and have been playing with for years. That's not like a bad thing. Because ultimately, like, who am I to come and break that up, right? It's just like, it's an odd dynamic when you come in as a stranger, essentially, right?
Yeah, I think one of the best pieces of advice I can give for that for people listening as well is like it's tempting to like, okay, you did all this stuff, you interviewed, you got your parses up, you finally got accepted. It's like, okay, now I want to benefit from the guild, and you're like, okay, where's my M plus group? And unfortunately, I feel like you still have to keep going at this point, right? And you have to be like looking out for ways that you can sort of provide value as a way to inject yourself into those groups, like Tuesday on reset, yeah, everybody's playing with their boys. Like even in my guild, like there's drama around, the people who are higher M plusers not like distributing around and helping other people. All 5 of the people in our guild who played on PTR are just playing together again, and the other groups are clueless. But there are times when you can help, like carrying somebody's shitty ult or being willing to play tank or healer if you don't normally play that. Monday, you have the lazy idiots in your guild who didn't do enough weeklies, who are begging for weeklies. Like those are the kind of the best times to sneak in. Like granted, right, you're gonna get into some suffer runs. I'm not saying this is a painless process, but I feel like a lot of people, especially if you have an environment of people who are pretty cool, they'll kind of recognize that, right? Like, hey, this new trial guy just showed up and he helped tank a 10 for my shitty rogue that I need to switch to, And it's like, I'm not necessarily being on janitor duty all the time, but that's at least a way to be like, okay, well, maybe next reset, that guy's going to remember your name. And he's like, hey, we need a TPS or whatever. We should get this guy.
I will say beginning of expansion, whenever they're like M0s and your guild will like assign M0 groups, those are normally pretty easy to be able to integrate yourself into. And I don't know if everybody's guild did this, but we assigned our hard mode Tazavesh groups where it was like, all right, these people are running with these people.
I've heard very bad things about guild assigned hard mode Tazavesh groups. I think at this point now, week 3, most of like the higher M plus players are doing it no problem. Like I actually just did a run before now where we didn't even have bloodlust. Yeah, good for them. Oh boy, do you have some stories? Oh, dude, I love this hard mode Tazavesh thing.
Oh god. Okay, so before we get to Tazavesh, I did want to, I guess, mention like something that I thought was kind of interesting. So when I joined the guild, it's like world rank like 800 or something. Which is like, I mean, I guess
pretty good.
fine for like a 2-day guild, right? So I came into this expecting like, maybe they were just not going to be that good or something. But the thing that I noticed is like there's a lot of genuinely, impressively, really fucking good players in this guild. So I'm wondering, like, that was like the biggest thing I noticed was like there's some absolute pumpers, like really good players in this guild. And I'm just like, so what's up with like the world rank and stuff? And as I played more and more, I noticed it's just like they're just more relaxed. Like they're just more chill. Like they aren't like running splits. Which is a thing now, by the way. For
Oh,
2-day guilds are running splits. It's
Jeez.
crazy.
duh.
Yeah, like my friend's guild, for example, like I just think it's crazy that they do like 2 sets of normal mode splits for tier. Like as a 2-day guild, it's insane. But that's like where the meta is. Like it's so beneficial. That even casual guilds, like casual quote unquote, I don't know if you want to call them casual at this point, are like doing splits on like week 1 because that's how important tier is.
Yeah.
Um, so I think like it was just really interesting because like wow, they're generally not like bad players or something, despite the world rank or something like that. It's just like there's a mentality that some people just really try hard. Like there are people who like title push. There's people who used to be Hall of Famers, and it's just a case of like maybe it's like disparity between the low end and the high end at this kind of rank. Um, and again, just a lot of it comes down to like assignment and the stuff you do outside of the raid, like prepping your character, prepping your assignments, your knowledge of the bosses. You know, like a lot of people kind of just start, showing up day 1 to normal and they just don't know the strats. And it's like, at first I was a little bit like, well, how do you not know the strats here? But ultimately, it's like, well, they just don't have the time. It's just normal. They didn't need to put in the research for it. We killed everything fine. So is that really a big deal? I don't think so, right? Ultimately, it's just a different approach to the game. You just don't have time to do some things until you get to like the mythic level.
I mean, dude, what you're saying absolutely hits home. Like my guild, we're 3-day. We have like an abridged farm schedule. We probably do half the amount of farm raids of people. We don't do splits. We don't have alts. And it's one of those things that like it would definitely make like a pretty serious impact in our gearing, but also just the ability to be able to play better compositions. Like we are just playing some of the worst comps ever. Like if I'm in a different guild, there's no chance in hell I'm on this Moonkin this tier. I would be playing like an Ellie Shaman or a Destro Warlock almost certainly. But because everybody only has like their one character that they play, then you just get kind of whatever comp you have, and you're like, all right, we'll figure it out. And I think that that's like something that has been lost with time a little bit over the last, I would say after Shadowlands. People started like being really serious about splits and making sure that you have multiple characters that you can play and just playing meta comp even in raid. And that has been like because in the past it was like, oh yeah, don't overtime, don't do splits. Splits suck. Only play one character. That's fun. And now everybody's like, oh yeah, we're doing 100. We're doing 3 runs of splits. Everybody's raiding 6 days a week. It's like, what is even going on? But obviously that's the higher ranks. But I mean, I think that's like kind of a testament to your guild where we're like, they're like, yeah, we're just laid back. We're just going to play. We're going to get whatever rank we're getting. We're going to have a good time doing it. And I think that also is attractive for some kind of people.
Yeah, I
for
mean, you
sure.
mentioned the hours thing earlier too. Like now you haven't even been exposed to it for that long, but I'm sure now you can see how this creep of every guild rating so much happens, right? Is like you're looking at your guild and you're thinking, dang, these guys are pretty good. Like, what would happen if we all show up on Sunday now and we
Right,
raid for
yeah.
another 3 hours, right? Like if we just, if we raid Sunday for the first month, how would that impact your rank? Like you'd probably own, right? Like you'd probably have players who, if you added those 3 hours every single week, your guild rank would go up a lot. And unfortunately, it's sort of gotten to that now where everyone's so efficient that is sort of the best way to improve your guild rank is just raid more. Like that was our guild. I believe it was week 2 where we killed Araz, and then we're starting to realize, wait a second, Fractalus and Soul Hunters are not that tough of a boss. Like other guilds are killing these bosses. It's like, well, what if we just add another raid day, guys? Like we might, we'll get some more loot, and then we'll unlock our vault, and our vault will go up in item level, and we'll go up in guild rank. And it's like, and like before I can even say maybe we shouldn't overtime a 5th day this week, it's just 19 thumbs up on the announcement in our guild channel, and it's like, all right, I guess I don't want to look down upon it if people want to, right? Like if all your boys are on and no one's got nothing to do, and you're right, but I think it just sucks that it's probably a lot harder to find a place that you're looking for. And I'm glad that you found one of like, okay, let's only raid 2 days. Let's not be super serious, like, keep to our hours, but still let's play well. And we really care about, killing the bosses.
Personally, I'm very surprised at how well it's been going from a social aspect, because I really appreciate it is an extremely strict 2 days. We're not doing a third day. The third day was at the start of the season. It was a Wednesday raid. It was completely optional normal mode, which day one maybe doesn't feel optional, but it really
Yep,
was.
yep.
There was a lot of people who just didn't show up because it's optional. No overtime, no third days. On the hour, on the minute when it's raid over, it's raid over. And that's just something I do really appreciate, especially in my situation. So it's been really good from that aspect. But again, it's just really weird to think like, wow, these players, this group of people that I'm in, like I think they would be hundreds of ranks higher if we did just, maybe let's just do a split for the first week, right? Like get some tier. It just the game incentivizes you to do that, which it might be worth mentioning. But oh my god, dude, I can't speak for every like casual Mythic raider, but god, do I want Heroic Week back.
Dude, everybody who raids Mythic is like, oh my god, I want Heroic Week back so bad. Because like the thing, like if you raid Mythic, what you want to do is whenever the raid is unlocked, you want to go into Mythic. You don't want to be
Mythic,
you
right.
don't want to be gated by doing normals and heroics. You want to go into Mythic, and then without the Heroic Week, you're like, well, I guess I'm spending 80% of my time this week trying to prog Heroic Dimensius before anybody else has ever killed it. I'm like, okay, this is...
It felt really bad because like week one, you're really excited to like start the gearing process, get into Heroic. And for week one, we did not step into a Mythic raid because the priority was finishing off Heroic, right? So like I think killed Dimensius on like the last couple of pulls of like the Tuesday raid before the reset. And that was it. And it just feels really bad because I don't know what the general sentiment is, but I can only speak from my perception. It really feels like, wow, it would be so good if we just had a week to clear Heroic. Maybe do some M+. Back in the day, it used to be capped at like +6 or something, so your eye level didn't get too crazy before Mythic was released. But yeah, it was really annoying. It just felt like you only have X number of hours to play in the week, and we don't even get to step into Mythic. It felt so bad.
I think
Yeah.
that...
And that's not like the guild's fault. It's just like that's how the game
Yeah.
is set up, and it's
I used to be traditionally a Heroic Week hater as an M+ guy, mainly because of what you said, because there's a cap on M+, right? In the same way that the Raiders want to jump into Mythic, I want to jump into the higher keys. However, I feel like the gearing from raid has changed quite a bit over the last expansion, and there's so much value in getting the tier, getting the OP trinkets, getting the cantrip weapons, that I don't think that eye level thing really matters anymore. Like I think they could just do a Heroic Week, have uncapped M+. You're still going to want to raid. You're still going to want to clear normal, clear Heroic, maybe even LFR. You need that tier. You need those trinkets. Like it's not like all of the M+ gear invalidates the raid gear nowadays. So I think that I would totally be fine with Heroic Week coming back as long as they're not cutting M+. But I don't see any reason to now, right? Like there's so many good raid items irrelevant of eye level.
Yeah, my best trinkets, I think, up until like a fully upgraded Mythic antenna and forge is the Ecodome trinkets.
Yep.
And I have those. I was very lucky. Week 2, I got a myth track as Korean Padakin, the crit thing.
That's the
from
one.
Ecodome.
Yep.
The Parapodia. That's
one.
good. That's we know which. Yep, that's that one.
So yeah, that was really nice to get that week 2. So yeah, it's cool to be able to go into Mythic Plus and maybe get some gear before you go into Mythic Raid. It just feels like, well, I don't even get to do Mythic Raid till week 2 because we only have X hours to play, and we just, it's important to do the normal and heroic raids because we need the tier, we need the trinkets, we need the boots, which I still don't have. I don't have the boots, which is crazy. It's like a 70k sim upgrade.
Most people don't have them. Yes. You're falling into your own trap now, where you started to look at the items that you could potentially get from raid, and now you're seeing the results.
So
yeah, I mean that's from a healer POV, right? Like that's another thing where, yeah, splits are annoying, but at the same time, man, it's pretty nice when our guild does 3 splits and I actually get tier and I actually get boots and I can actually get items as a healer. Like, dude, if you don't even have the tier as a dev evoker, like I'm sure whatever male users in your raid, like, Resto Shaman or Pres Evoker or whatever, are even further behind on the list. So yeah, I don't know. I understand the value of it for sure.
I was really lucky because I guess like the week 1 vault is like super free because it's like M0. So I was super lucky there because I got the like champion track tier shoulders, and then I had hero track from the Mythic Plus farming to catalyze. So 2 + 1 is 3, and shout outs to the guild. They trusted me enough to give me a tier piece, so I got 4 set really quickly. So that was super nice, especially Dev Evoker. The playstyle changes completely when you get tier sets, so I had to like relearn. So yeah, so much information overload. You got to like learn like your class. Like in my case, for example, your opener changes completely. Your priority shifts a little bit when you get the new tier. So it's like it's a big learning curve, and I felt like I didn't actually play that well week 1 and 2 because I'm dealing with all of this other stuff. Like I have to like sort of learn my class a little bit differently. The add-ons, the weak auras, all that kind of stuff. Learning the bosses, reviewing logs. I don't know how common it is for casual Mythic guilds to do this, but I'm looking at other dev evokers on Warcraft logs to see when they're pressing certain buttons. So it's a whole process, it's a lot of information overload. Thankfully, even just by like almost week 3, I'm at a position where I can just raid log. I don't need to do any more M+ farming. I have been doing it for fun just because I like pushing score. Timed my first 15 a few days ago, so that was nice for the season. So yeah, I took 1 day off work on day 1 of the season, just farmed M+ all day, went into normal mode. But ever since, I feel like I'm at a position where I don't need to play constantly. So that's good. And again, I want to be able to go into Mythic raids, and I just think Heroic Week would be really beneficial for that.
Okay, so is it real lore that you had to pug Tazavesh Hard Mode?
I have a 0 out of 3 success rate in Tazavesh.
Oof.
It's rough. So this was one of the things, I guess, that kind of annoyed me, I suppose, was like, I don't know what's going on with the guild. Like, I don't know who's doing when they're doing their Tazavesh. This wasn't discussed. This wasn't suggested. It wasn't assigned. So, I'm like, at Raider, anyone want to do Tazavesh, right? And no one wants to do Tazavesh Hard Mode because they already have their group. So I've pugged it 3 times. The first time I pugged it with 4 alts from the guild. Which I'll take the scraps. I don't mind.
Ouch.
Jesus.
So it was double Hunter Dev Evoker DPS setup. It was a comp of all time. So the week 1, we got all the way to Himdall, and it's very frustrating because we wiped to the mob spawning. The Lightning Nova guy spawned on top of a player and one-shot him from aggro.
Yep.
So that sucks. Week 2, I'm dedicated to that. I want to do this. No one in the guild seems to be interested. So I'm in like a couple of boosting communities. So I'm like talking in the community chat. Anyone want to try Tazavesh? I open LFG. I set Tazavesh streets under the Mythic Plus category because there is no Tazavesh Hard Mode category. It's hard to set up a group to pug that, by the way. So I listed it under Mythic Plus Streets, and I actually got signups. We jump in Discord, and guess what we wipe to? We get to the dragon, which is pretty good. That's the second last boss.
Not
It's
bad.
going pretty well.
I was gonna say, you've had some good runs, like, and if you just have like one silly mishap and the rest of it's clean, I mean, you're so close. But yeah, I mean, that's
week 2, we get to the dragon, and I just have these complete random people in Discord that I've never met or spoke to before who aren't in the guild, and as soon as the dragon gets pulled, 2 people disconnect, and they just insta-die to the fire spawn. Like, that was annoying. And my 3rd attempt, once again, Himdall took us down. This time, the kick rotation. I'm like calling it out. I am calling it out. I am saying, like, because I'm dedicated to this. It's the 3rd attempt. I want to get this hard mode myth track piece. And I'm calling it out, and the DK just overlap their kick. So I'm like, okay, I'll take the next one, and then we have no kick. So I'm like, healer, back up, healer, back up. And then we fail it. So healer, why didn't you kick? I thought you meant back up as in move backwards.
Healers, man. Oh my god, healers. They are the worst, aren't they? That's one thing you learn from playing DPS.
But was that also in a pug, or was this? Are these people?
Yeah,
that you know?
pug. I've just been pugging.
God!
I've been pugging Tazavesh. It's so sad. Like week 3, I think one person in the guild DM'd me, and they're like, "Oh, hey, I'll do a Tazavesh with you." And then that's just one person. So I was like, okay, I managed to find a decent group. They've all got high IO scores. Let's do this. Hop in Discord, and for some reason they can't do a kick rotation, despite audibly being told the rotation, which was kind of frustrating. But everyone was kind of chill about it. It wasn't like toxic or anything. It was just like, unlucky guys, better luck next time. You know, it is what it is.
You mentioned last season you got all the way up to Result 15s, which is like a pretty big time commitment over the course of the season. What was your attitude towards like adding people from LFG or like making friends there? Did you just like not really do much of that or not really find people worthy or like that's I guess where I would be pulling my hard mode groups from, right?
You know, I actually tried to add a couple of people here and there, but the M plus pug scene is just like everyone's availability is just all over the place, right? I added like maybe 5 to 7 people last season just because like, oh, this tank's really good. Let me add him. You know, I tried doing that a couple of times. During the day one farm this season, I played a couple of keys with like this high rated warlock I played from last season, and it was fine. But I just couldn't get like a full group together to do M plus. Even like now, I posted in the guild's like M plus channel, hey, does anyone want to like try push for 15s? And it's like just one person DM'd me. And again, that's just because it's a casual mythic rating guild. A lot of these people just want to do their vault. They don't care about score, which is completely understandable. So yeah, it's I feel like I'm still in the same position. I've tried to add people and stuff, and I can't get a team together. You know, no one wants to push score at least consistently at the same time.
Yeah,
So
sometimes, and I definitely don't doubt that it's hard because I know it's hard. But one thing that I did, at least that I remember, you watch like streamers or higher end players, and you see like Ellismere and JPC and Yoda, and everybody logs in every single time the same day, and and obviously that's super OP. But at least when I remember like pushing all the way up to the top, you would just like I don't know have like 1 or 2 buds. Like one of my groups that I pushed up a lot of score with was I played Mistweaver, I had a Bear Druid tank, and then we had a Hunter, and we would just queue up, and it would just be us 3, and it's like I feel like getting to find 5 people is like basically impossible until you're near the very high end, unless you just have a super group of friends or whatever. But I think even just like queuing with 1 other person or 2 other people that can be like a huge difference, because that way you at least like, okay, well, we made that mistake, we know between one of us we can salvage this situation next time.
Finding 1 or 2 other people problem. Asterisk if one of them is a tag.
Yeah, I mean, obviously having a tanker healer in is the best part. But yeah, I mean, like that's the biggest downside I can imagine to pugging, right? Is like, let's say you go to a key, you do a 15 floodgate, and then something goes wrong. It's like, well, okay, you learn that, but now your next 15 floodgate, those 4 other monkeys might just make the exact same mistake again, and then you wipe. And it's like, well, if we were playing with the same people, that wouldn't happen. But even just like having 1 or 2 extra people is like, okay, now we have more people watching out for that sort of thing.
Dude, I have a bone to pick with the last discussion on Rezil that we had. What is your friend's dorky's problem? Like, dude, I don't know. He seems to be the biggest hater of Rezil keys. I was listening to him rant about it, like on I think like the Podyssey or something, and it was just like the most jobless, unemployed complaints I've ever heard.
Holy,
dude, it's like, oh man, Rezio keys, they've really affected like the title push for 0.1% of the player base. People just kind of network and then they get the Rezio keys to like try and get title on the last day. And I'm just sitting there thinking to myself, this is like the most first of the first world problems I've ever heard, dude. Like, this is not an issue with Rezio keys. So just to clarify, I think like Rezo keys are objectively good, and anyone who says otherwise needs to just touch some grass. I don't know what to say, dude. Like, it is insane to me that people are complaining that there's like issues with Rezo key at the highest level. Like, what is the argument?
To defend him, okay, I'll pitch the argument.
What's the argument? You have to play more. You have to play more anyway if you want to get title. What's the difference?
No. It's not that you have to play more. It's the process of like so. Pushing a key that's like at the very tip top of like your actual play isn't particularly fun. You would prefer to do a key that's, achievable 1 in every 3 runs or something like that. And as opposed to being able to do a key, as opposed to trying to do a key that's achievable 1 in every 15 or 1 every 20 runs. And obviously,
the hardest content needs more attempts.
So clearly, this happens in fringe cases, but this does happen towards the very top end of the system. I mean, I think that I understand his complaints mostly because I've seen them, but like, yeah, obviously what the counter argument here is like, there's a reason that they didn't change the system. It's because it doesn't negatively affect most people, but there are fringe cases where the system can become incredibly unsatisfying whenever you have to push against like really hard resilient keys. Because in theory,
I don't know. I still don't understand it. It still just boils down to,
so there's variance, right? Like there's variance, and say, historically, you know, like the limiting key would be, we'll just talk about last season's terms. A lot of people were struggling to get like 19 resilient or 20 resilient at the very top end. And so Priority of the Sacred Flame was obviously that last key that everybody needs. At some point, you get variance where you're like, okay, eventually we'll time this 19 Priory, and then you get resilient 19s. Those resilient 19s should, in theory, be on farm, but because all you need to do is time that key one time, that's not exactly, that's like your high end. That's not like the average of your play. So say you have like plus or minus 1 key level worth of variance on any given day that you're playing. If all you have to do is be able to have groups that play to the high end of that variance on each and every single key, then you get the resilient 19. And then in theory, that's supposed to be the homework key. But then next, one thing leads to another, and you're running down the homework key, depleting it over and over again. And you're like, well, this sucks. I'm logging off. Which, like, you know, I think it's fine to be like, you know, I've hit the cap for what I want to do for the season. But at the same time, I think that, again, trying to push against achievements. So say you wanted to go and do 20s. If that's a 1 in 20 key attempt for you, there's nothing else for you to do with the season. Like your season's over, and that feels bad. Where in the past, you would be artificially deflated a little bit.
I'm just looking at this through the perspective of like, okay, well, that last resi key that you need is like killing the last boss of a raid. Yeah, it's hard. It's gonna take more attempts. Like, if you want it, keep playing. If you don't want it enough, then stop playing. Like,
yeah.
I don't get it. Like, I really don't understand the logic behind it. The hardest content is going to be harder and take longer to do.
It lets you do a key level, I would say on average 1 key level higher than you would be doing in a previous season. And what's the difference with like doing 500 Dimensius Mythic pulls? Eventually everyone's stars will align and they'll kill the boss. Listen, I think your argument's valid. I think it creates a system that is like not that fun most of the time, but
the hardest content in any game is not really fun if you think about it, right? Like, it is just a case of like bashing your head against the wall trying to do a deathless, hitless Elden Ring run or something.
Yeah,
right?
that's kind of what it turned into.
Right, like it is hard. Like, it's gonna take a lot of attempts. Like, I don't know. Like, anyway.
Okay, no, not anyway. All right.
I'm gonna go get some water while he goes anyway.
To all the people in the comments that are gonna say I'll take. First of all, I didn't bring up Brazil keys. Okay, it was brought up upon me. Okay, so in Dorky's defense and in my defense, if your critique of our thoughts are, oh wow, what first world problem for some chronically online WoW nerd. Unfortunately, that's what I am. No, I'm not saying that's an insult. I'm saying that's what I am. So
no, it is an insult.
Again, all right.
Anyone who's better than me is unemployed. Anyone who's worse than me is bad.
The noob. Yep, 100%. So here's the thing: is people listen to the podcast and they think Growl's takes are so L. He's chronically online. This is terrible for the game. I'm allowed to complain about Resil keys and not say they should be deleted and they're terrible for the game. Like, I'm just talking about my general experience and my enjoyment of the system. Like, I think for someone like Dorky, especially, who probably is literally begged every day to carry them in some dog shit resilient key, he probably hates it more than me. So the two biggest problems I'd say about Resil keys, number one is like sort of what Tettles brought up, is your success rate in the keys that you're doing is like way, way, way lower, right? Like, the doing a key where you have a 5% success rate, in my opinion, is just inherently a lot less fun than doing a key with, 25% success rate or 50% success rate. And yeah, true, it's a harder thing, but like you mentioned, you mentioned Mythic Dimensius, but okay, we hate, like, a lot of us M+ers hate Mythic Raid. Like, we're not sitting here saying, oh wow, we love 500 pull Mythic Dimensius either. Like, fuck that shit's terrible too. Like, none of us high M+ers are wanting to do that.
But here's the thing, right? Like, in a infinitely scaling system, you're going to reach a point where that percentage is going to get lower and lower and lower, right?
Correct.
Whether it's a 25% success rate to down to a 15, down to a 10, down to a 1% success rate.
Well, no, because you have to upgrade the key before it. So for instance, let's say you have resilient 20s and getting a 21 is a 5% success rate. You probably don't have a 50% success rate doing 20s. You probably have like a 15% success rate. So you're not doing 21s.
Right,
Maybe in a crazy streak, you get to a 21 key, but you're not spending all day doing these 5% success rate keys. You're
right. So
doing homework and you're practicing and you're getting more reps of, it's basically like, okay, you're working out, you're just, but only doing 1 rep max every single day. It's like, that would be miserable.
So what I'm hearing is that they actually need to buff Resil key to a level where it is a progression key. So you should have Resil of a progression key, 1 key above where your level is. So if I have all 14s, I should get Resil 15.
Well,
that would solve the issue, I think.
My point is that progression is relative. Like, in your mind, progression is like, okay, well, if I have a 14, I'm done. I've learned everything I have to learn about a 14. I should never have to be in there again. My argument is like, well, you haven't really, like, you know, you might have just gotten in one random group and gotten carried in that 14. And like, you know, if you're not having a success in 15 keys, then maybe you should spend time in 14s. I know people don't want to hear that, but like, you know, is that not true? Like,
no, that's not true. Like, if you're done with like Mythic Dimensius, like you don't get to, like, you know, be told, well, you know, maybe you got lucky, you know, just go do it again.
You didn't get it because you actually haven't killed Soul Hunters yet. So, you know, the Dimensius kill not valid until you kill Soul Hunters.
But this is something else. Like, this is raid. Like, that's not how raid works. Like, that's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that they've fundamentally changed how M+ works. Like, we've played Mythic Plus for years and years where a level of consistency was required, right? Like, it wouldn't just be a matter, like, the gameplay loop of doing 1 key for 10 hours and then finally completing it and then, okay, now we're done. Like, that just wasn't what Mythic Plus was. Like, they've completely changed the gameplay loop of what Mythic Plus is for people who have been playing it. And I'm not saying remove resilient keys. I'm not saying this isn't better for people who are, you know, progressing and moving up the ranks, but I'm just saying for where I'm at as a player, like, they've completely changed the way keys work in the gameplay loop for the most part. And like, you know, while it's true that if you're Yoda's group or whatever and you're on the cutting edge, yeah, you don't have resilient keys and you should just be rank 1. But realistically, like, there's a huge chunk of players you know, who are like just feeding off of other people's resilient keys. And then it trickles down and happens. And it trickles down and it happens all the way through LFG, right? Because let's say you, for example, right? You're somebody who doesn't really have an M+ group. You're not really getting carried on resil keys. But what about the guy 1 level above you? So you're trying to break into 15s, but the guy, basically, let's say there's a guy with resil 15 who's pugging. He uses his 16 key. It gets depleted. Now he has to go into LFG with his resil 15, get a bunch of people who need it for score, and now you're using his resil key to move up. I mean, I assume that happens, right? Because if you're pugging, like, if you're putting your key in. So I mean, like, really everybody is entering in this resilient gameplay loop, like, one way or another. It's not just a matter of being carried.
I think it's like partially what Growl just described, where pretty much everybody is like leeching off somebody in the group that has the resilient key, and then you're like genuinely.
Come on, dude. We're gonna complain about networking.
No. It's not networking. It's like it's not the networking aspect. It's the progressing the dungeon aspect, where you'll throw a bunch of attempts at a run, like, and this turns into like you're actually progressing raid. Where in the past, you know, you would time a key, deplete a key, time a key, deplete a key, because then you're averaging out to like what your average key level is supposed to be. But now you're like, you have a floor from one player, and you always are incentivized, first off, to run their key, and secondly, like, you're incentivized to do that same dungeon over and over again. And I think that gameplay loop is not particularly fun.
I mean, doing the same key over and over with a very low success rate is like, that is, you literally said it, right? You're like, this is Mythic Raid. You're doing Mythic Dimensius. And for the longest time, Mythic Plus was this way that you could play World of Warcraft at a high level, or whatever level you wanted to. That wasn't Mythic Raid. You know, for the longest time, all there was to do in WoW was raid in terms of like actual content. Now there was something, and now they're almost turning it into raid, where I'm going into Priory, and it's literally like, what do you think a high level Priory looks like? It's literally the exact same thing as Forge Weaver, right? Where it's like, okay, here's our stop rotation, here's our defensive rotation for every single pull, every single boss. Like, I don't know. I just think,
for the record, I think it's really fringe. I think it's actually more fringe than Growl makes it out to seem, where there are just specific instances in which the system becomes super unfun. And it particularly happens whenever you're not playing with the same 5 stack. If you're playing with the same 5 stack, I think the system works perfectly. But if you're bouncing around groups and you get different groups, which most people do, most people don't, even in the high end, they don't really play with the same 5 people. They're just bouncing around. Whoever invites them, you know, you're just playing. Like, whenever you're jumping groups, that's when it becomes like it can become an unfun gameplay loop, because you can enter into a situation where the key is, it's timeable, but like it's not really timeable. And so you could either dissolve the group, which mostly happens, or you could throw a bunch of attempts at it, which is like,
okay, so I've been processing and absorbing all of this in, and what it sounds like to me is the real macro discussion level and problem that you're finding in this is not so much that resilient key is inherently flawed or has an issue even at the highest level. What you're describing is an inherent flaw with an infinitely scaling game mode. And I think that's where the problem is.
I think it's okay. Maybe you might be right. I think it's the differentiation between whenever you're playing with a pure 5 stack versus not. Like that to me, I think is the differentiation. If you're playing with a 5 stack day in and day out, you'll probably never really experience this issue.
But the thing is, like, if you play with the same 5 stack, you're all going to be at the same resilient level. So you all have like plus 18 or something.
Yes.
Now you all want to try to do a plus 19. You go in, you do a plus 19, you wipe within the first priority pool in like 10 seconds. Now what do you need to do? Now with your 10 hours of World of Warcraft per week that you have, you then need to go into a 17, bring that up back to an 18, and then try and do that same pull again, right? And so it's like, too much of the game is waiting around to do the content you want to do.
I think that's I think that there's a fundamental issue with LFG, which is what you're describing right there, which is what resilient key is aiming to which is what resilient keys are aiming to solve, and they largely did it. I think that the main objective of the resilient key is to have fail-safe measures for people who are primarily using LFG to make sure that they can't slide super far and like you described, waste a bunch of fucking time. I do think that like, it's whenever somebody has the resilient key level, somebody from that group, they say join a group of their friends that they've never keyed with before, not their 5 stack, and they have the resilient key level higher. That's the golden goose. And how do you turn somebody's like homework key for their 5 stack that they'll time with 100% success rate and not turn it into somebody else's golden goose key that they're gonna run a bunch of attempts at for homework? And I think that that's like the differentiation. But yeah.
Well, what you said is very important, and this is why resilient keys are like very well accepted and in general good for the game, is just that reason, right? Is you have a key, it depletes to a key that you don't want anymore, right? But you have something of value now. You have a resilient key. It won't go down anymore, and people are more likely to join your group because they know they'll get a couple attempts on a key they need. That's great. Like I think that's great for pugging. I think it's good for the system. But in general, your comment about infinitely scaling systems, while I agree, the thing that you have to understand, right? It's a caveat of how you move up, right? Like you're moving up in a way, not like resilient keys are essentially pushing everybody further up the ladder than they were before. Whereas before it was an infinitely scaling system, but you had to keep timing the key in order to keep moving up. You weren't just stuck on some rung of the ladder and that I hate to use the phrase you don't belong in, but it's changed. What key you belong in changed from see, you're saying no, but I mean, like, that's just how it works.
Well, like, admittedly, most people are limited by time. Most people are limited by time, like, admittedly, right? Like, you're saying deserve, but I think that but
it's an MMO. Like, I'm limited by time. Like, if I played another 6 hours a day, I would be a lot better. Like, it's true, but
maybe you did some splits.
That's true, right?
Yeah.
I think that everything that you've described is essentially boiling down to either an infinitely scaling issue or the issue of what resilient key eliminated was the necessity of having to do homework keys. Resilient keys basically remove the need to do homework keys, which if you only have 10 hours to play in a week, I don't want to do homework keys. I want to do progression keys, right? Ultimately, that's what I want to spend my time on, is progressing. I don't want to have to do a key I've already done. So I think that's just fundamentally where we disagree.
The only difference is score. Because you still, like, in terms of learning and progressing and becoming a better player, a 15 priority and a 16 priority is going to be like really, really close to the same thing. It's not like doing in terms of being a waste of time, a 15 priority, you'll learn and improve like 97% of what you would in a 16 priority, other than a few things hitting a little bit harder. But the only difference is that in a 16 priority, you get the golden star when you completed that, hey, you did this, right? That's the only thing that makes a 16 priority a waste of time, or the 15 rather, is that you don't get the IO score, right?
Why is this a negative?
Would the system be worse though if you couldn't get score from a resilient key? Like, how much worse would the system be if you couldn't get score from, if somebody if you were using somebody else's resilient key.
Yeah,
Well, it'd be
if
the
you use
opposite.
someone
Well,
else's
that's-
resilient key,
yeah.
you should get -5 rating.
Well, no,
right?
no, no. What if you got
Well,
no
no,
rating?
right?
What if you got
No,
no
but
rating?
it would be the
Yeah.
opposite, right? Because the whole thing is that when your key depletes, you can go in and get people, but then no one would do your resilient key, right? If Farfa
So-
depleted his 16, then he has a 15 that no one gets score from, then he would just go in LFG and no one would join his group. Right?
Well, then he
That-
would
that
lie.
would-
He would
that would never
lie and
work.
say it's not resilient to
Yeah,
Farfa.
just exactly. You just
Oh
it's
no,
resilient.
this is terrible.
Oh my god. So yeah. Anyway, it is what it is. I guess what are we talking about next? Let's move on from resilient.
levers. Oh my god, I think we got to talk about levers.
Wait, what happened to Tazavesh Hard Mode? I guess we talked about
I think
it
we
a little
talked
bit.
about that.
You guys have any good
Um,
story or Tuttles? You have any good stories? How have yours been going?
I'm 1-1. Fine.
Oh,
I
shoot.
guess
All right.
there isn't really much to say about it other than like conceptually the system. I quite like it. This idea of like getting a bonus myth track item that you like do this like really hard content for. You know, it's a little bit miserable in some sense because it's like an 8 boss dungeon where like you're just slowly pulling one pack at a time. You're waiting for lust for every boss, so that's like a little bit boring. But it's also I enjoyed it. I liked it. I just hated the fact that I had to pug it. I think if I was with my boys and it was a 5 stack of friends, I would, even if we failed, I think I would have enjoyed it even more. But even when pugging it, I liked it. And conceptually, I think it's kind of cool. It does suck as a Mythic Raider that I'm just missing out on. I've missed out on 3 potential myth track items now. But what can you do, right?
I got no upgrades for mine. So
Yeah, that's one thing
Makes
that
me
I've
feel better.
noticed from being in successful runs is that the item that you get is only 4 or 3 item levels higher than a hero track item with Rune Crest. And also it's like, well, you might get something that's not even good like a lot of the time. So the actual value of it, I think the fact that you can get myth track items later, I think will supersede that as well. Like when everyone is 10 item levels higher and you kind of need that, like, 2 to 3 more myth pieces, and it's really hard to get outside of Mythic Raid. I think people will really like, like it'll only get easier and easier to pug as the season goes on. And I wanted to echo that too when you said that it's hard to find groups. I noticed that too. Like I basically haven't really been doing it on my healers just because it's hard to find groups, right? Even for me. And I went into LFG and like I didn't even know how to find a group. Like just to like YOLO it on a Monday night, right? Let's say I wanted to do that. I didn't even know how to find people to do it. Like, is that really what you have to do? Is you just street 7+ and you just write it in? Because I kind of expected other people would write it in too, right? I would search hard mode or Taz or whatever in the group finder and nothing comes up. Like, I don't know. I guess.
Yeah. It needs a separate category or something.
Just to echo Farfa sentiment, I feel like it's actually super fun too. It feels very much like the raid equivalent of Mythic Plus, where it's supposed to be like a progression thing that you're doing. I don't want to say necessarily with a 5 stack, but with people that you kind of know, like a couple weeks in a row, and then eventually you're able to like have it on farm. I found it quite fun, and like if this is the way that they want to give more myth track loot to people who primarily want to do dungeons, I think that this is. It's weird that it's completely random, but I don't think this is bad. I'm kind of with you guys on this one. I like it. I actually find it quite fun, even though, especially at like 7-10 item level, you kind of just like walk with all the bosses. It's like you killed them in a minute 30 or something with Bloodlust.
Yeah, damage is like never the issue. I don't know if this is like a millennial participation trophy take or something, but I think it would be nice if maybe you had like 1 more attempt per week, because it was soul destroying to like fail an entire 1.5 hour push for like a DC.
Yeah.
And like a 1 missed kick and a pug, right? I think like if you're 5 people and you had 1 good solid sort of like warm-up attempt and then like you did your real one after, it might have been a little bit more forgiving, but it is really unforgiving. But that's the balance between difficult content and reward.
You get hero track gear too. I don't know. You do get some like it's the best hero track gear farm for like alts.
I noticed it's really insane for alts. Like even if you go into hard mode Tazavesh and you don't need, even if you die, it's fine. You just kill the rest of the boss.
Yep.
Well, do you get gear from bosses once you die?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You get here.
Yeah.
So that's really common in the communities, is that that's like one of the best ways to get gear. And it's actually another reason why it's harder to find people to do hard mode Taz is you want to have good characters that are not saved because you can sell those. Like you can get 4 people and you basically, like, let's say you get 1 0.5 items per boss, you have 5 leather users in the group. Like, you literally get 12 hero track items for somebody in one run if they're, if you're loot funneling them. So yeah, the loot that you get is crazy for alts, even like not like hard mode, but not deathless.
Getting into groups for me this season hasn't been difficult. I don't know if that's just because I'm, pretty high. Like, whenever I join a progression raid dungeon key, like whenever I sign up, I have like a 1 in 10 success rate, which is fairly high when you're constantly queuing. So it's not been too bad for me, even though despite Devastation isn't like the insta pick like a DK is maybe, or like a Boomy. I don't even know what the meta is, to be honest. Everyone's kind of playing whatever right now, right?
One thing that I hear of a lot from people is the idea of like staying ahead of the curve, right? Like being a little bit higher item level, a little bit higher score. Do you
Yeah,
think that
mythic
maybe
rating.
with
Yeah,
do you
100%.
think joining a mythic guild and having not just getting the loot, but also having the incentive, like, okay, I really want to work hard on my guy. Do you think that's helped you this season, like stay ahead basically?
I think so. I feel like I'm getting invited more, and I don't know if that's just maybe because the perception of Dev is that it's good this season. Because I guess you would probably put it in like an A tier section. Like, it's not like an insta invite, but if a good dev signs up to your pug key, you'll probably invite them, right? It's just a good spec to have in dungeons. So it's been really easy for me. And I don't know if it's like, because when I list a key, I do have a bias where if I see 2 DKs and they have like both just really good score, but one of them is like 3 out of 8 mythic and the other one has only done normal modes, like, I don't know, I'm probably just gonna pick the guy who's got 3 out of 8 mythic, right? Like,
I got blown
best
up in a
tiebreaker
podcast.
criteria for
I
sure.
got blown up in a podcast one time for saying that. All the M+ rats got so mad at me because I pointed that out as a way that you can easily decide. Because from pugging, right? That's so common. As you make a group, you sign up, or you make a group. You literally have 7 DKs or rep paladins that all signed up, that all have the exact same
Right.
score within 10. All of them are 708 item level or whatever, and it's like, well, one of the guys, 4 of 8 mythic and has reasonable parses. Like, let's invite him. And the comments were pissed.
Whoa, you're checking out their logs and shit? Like, you copy paste
I mean,
radar,
yeah, why not?
Okay,
Why not?
okay,
Yeah.
fair enough.
Well,
they were so mad at me. That doesn't mean anything. Mythic raid has no correlation to M+. You're gatekeeping.
It's kind of true, to be fair.
But what do they want me to do? Just roll a dice and then, that's who I
Okay,
invite? Like, come
but
on. Like, don't pretend like these commenters don't do the same thing.
It's what Farfa said earlier on in the show, though, where he was like, yeah, I have to be the sweatiest person alive with my damage. You know that if that guy's killing mythic bosses, especially early on, that person is just sweating about their damage, and they're probably on average gonna do more DPS than somebody who's not raiding.
I mean, yeah, but it has to do with accessibility, like how easy it is to grab somebody,
Yeah.
right? Like the fact that it's so easy and there's 7 people on the list that are applying, like, just use your brain, right? This is different from like, oh, who am I accepting into my mythic raid guild when I have only 3 applicants this week?
It's tiebreaker criteria. That's exactly what it is. It's just tiebreaker criteria. Yeah. If there's somebody who's 50 points ahead, I'm taking them over the mythic kills probably.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is, but like when you play a meta class, I guess that is going to be very common in the queue. Like, if 4 Death Knights sign up to my key and they're all pretty much the same score and eye level, there is only one real tiebreaker, and it's like, okay, well, this guy mythic rates.
Yeah.
Probably better. Not all the time, but what other deciding factor can you possibly make, right?
Like you were saying too, I think that the meta for DPS, I have a strong suspicion that we're about to get like class tuning this next week. I was surprised that we didn't get it this week, and I think that'll end up solidifying the meta. If they actually didn't touch anything with the meta right now, I actually think it would be in a pretty healthy state where it seems like
Where's
the
the station
devs right here.
That little green line, dude.
Not
what the
3.1%. It's just not very
happy
popular.
Getting invites, I guess.
It's good. Like, I think it's good. I think the main consensus is like wizard comps are a little bit worse. So like, even though arcane mage is individually pretty good, a lot of people I think are trending towards like the melee cleaves with the protection warrior with Frosty K and like Havoc Demon Hunter. And so then you're like kind of locked in on playing a bunch of melee. But arcane mage individually is very strong, which means that the supporting cast of an arcane mage would be probably like a destruction warlock and a devastation evoker. That would probably, or like there's probably an Ellie Shaman comp in there that works too with like a Resto Druid. But I think that like arcane mage Destro dev would probably be the wizard comp, and that comp is, I think, very good.
Well, I mean, Dev is pretty good, and also when you look at the classes that are real popular besides Resto Shaman and Arcane Mage, there's not a lot of Lust classes really. And let's be honest, like,
Yeah.
okay, when you're playing with a really good geared mage at a high level, that's good. But most mages in low LFG are just a fucking trap. Like, good luck inviting, good luck expect. Arcane's gotten easier this season, don't get me wrong, but if you invite some random mage to like a 12 key, like that is a complete crapshoot as to what you're gonna get. I think you're probably way better, like, you know, way better off inviting a dev if you, assuming that you can't get a Resto Shaman and you need the Lust.
God tier spec for like 10s, 12s, 14s. Dev and Marksmanship Hunter, for some reason, those people, unlimited damage. The biggest trap class is always Mage, and I don't even know why. It's just always Mage.
Well, I think
skill ceiling, right?
Well, part of it too is I think the way that the dungeon is pulled at a higher level, you are pulling not only bigger, but you also are like keeping track of priority mobs and making sure the mage has stuff to hit, making sure the pack lives long enough. In lower keys, it's just a total grab bag, whatever the tank wants to pull. I feel like Dev works out a lot better when you just get like, oh, okay, random 6 mob pull with no prio mob. You just kind of like fire and blast everything. And it's like, I just think that also when you're a lower level mage and you're trying to learn, that also gets very frustrating and you start like trying to do weird shit to make up for that. At least I remember that when I was trying to learn mage, is like, how do I make up for all of these tanks like doing these weird routes that I don't understand? And it would definitely cause me to play worse. Like I would definitely just run really stupid talent builds or like send my cooldowns in terrible places, and it's just a lot less straightforward as to like what you do at that level.
I've been really enjoying my class so much. I used to be a demon hunter. I was pretty good at it as well. And Evoker feels like a ranged demon hunter to me in some respects. So,
Ooh, how are you feeling about the new demon hunter spec that got announced?
I haven't looked into it too much, honestly. I just think so, you know, on a personal level, what happened to me was I got like 98% parses or something as a demon hunter. So I was like really good at demon hunter, and then I tried to like multi-class, and I just couldn't hack it. I just wasn't doing as well as like a rogue, for example. My guild needed a rogue at the time, and I just wasn't performing, or I wasn't getting the numbers I was. You know, mechanically and stuff, I'm fine, and I've tried to like move around a lot, and so what I've decided is like I'm just gonna stick to my class. I only have X amount of time to play these days. I'm just gonna play my character. I'm gonna play my one main. So I'm gonna stick to like Dragon. I love the feel of it. It's a great class, and I really enjoy the spec. Even Og, should it ever be good, I actually don't mind playing Og. I kind of enjoy off-specking Prez occasionally. So I think like I want to be I think for someone like me who only has a certain amount of time to play, trying to like re-roll and like main a different class, I think I'm just gonna stick with what I'm doing, keep getting better at it, and get really good at it. So that's kind of like how I want to maybe play the game going forward.
Did you play Venge last season, some?
Mage?
Venge is Demon Hunter.
Oh, yeah, I had like an alt like DH tank, but it was not like a main or something I would want to consider raiding with. It was just because like whenever my Evoker wouldn't get invited, I'll just log on the tank just for the sake of playing.
Dude, Mythic Plus alt and raid alts are very like being able to like class swap into something into your main raid is a very different experience than casually playing something in Mythic Plus.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say too. I felt the same way with healers when I was in Humble. Like I was kind of the guy that would just re-roll to whatever healer the comp needed. And as that guild got better and better and raid got more serious, like I would really feel like I am behind. Like these other healers in my guild are just better than me, and I'm just playing some class that I'm trying to learn how to play it as we get into the raid. And plus, I think it's definitely more reasonable to meta re-roll, both because of groups and because like you have the kind of the whole season to learn at your own pace. But yeah, for a raid, it is so tough to just go into the beginning of a raid and like not, you know, have a very baseline understanding of your spec and expect to do well. Because just like you said, right, there's so many outside things. You're like fighting with weak auras and all this stuff. Like you don't really have the time to like actually look at your gameplay and think when you're like troubleshooting your Fractalus weak aura and doing all this, you know, splits and shit.
There was something I wanted to bring up as well before we finish, and I think it's an important topic, but this is like maybe my hottest take, but when the new talent build thing was introduced in Dragonflight, I hated it. I hated the change. I really did not like the new talent system, and I don't know if I like it still.
I got blown up for this opinion too, but the commenters were so mad that I had this opinion.
So I could only speak for myself, but the way I saw it, and I really felt it this tier, because I'm jumping back into Mythic rating. I'm like relearning my class. I'm learning mechanics. I'm learning how to set up my UI. I'm learning my timers. So much learning, information overload, and I'm also like trying to like be good at my class. And the talent builds, and again, it's why I said I want a one trick, because I just want to keep playing this and keep getting better at it and keep, being the best evoker I can be. The biggest issue I found was there is just so much stuff going on outside of just pressing your buttons. I think it was one of you guys who mentioned there was like a weak aura that you could install that when you hover over the tooltip of an ability, it tells you every single talent affix associated with it. And it was like, what's the most egregious example? It's like Vivify for Mistweaver. If you hover
Yeah,
over that,
renewing
there's just
this
like
or
there's just
any of the
there's just like
Mistweavers.
9 different modifiers and stuff, right? So even something as like it's perceived to be quite a simple spec, Devastation, and it is probably at like a fundamental level. But when you're trying to like really min max and optimize, there's so many little like things going on. You've got like your inner flame window, and then like this talent changes the priority when it procs versus this, and it's like there's so many things going on. I really liked when I was in Shadowlands and whenever I was playing Havoc, and some classes were worse than others. You would literally just play the exact 9 buttons in a row, or whatever the number was, in every content, in Mythic Plus and Raid, and that was it. Maybe you'd move like 1 node to the left and pick up a stun. The way I see it is like the talent build, they sort of tried to sort of harken back to like the classic hype, I suppose, when they like introduced classic WoW, right? And it was like, oh, look, you have talent builds again. And it's like the way that modern gaming works now is like we're all about tier lists and optimizations and playing correctly, quote unquote, right? So when you have this new talent system, it's just an illusion of choice. You're just going to take the single target build, the M plus build. You're moving around a couple of utility things, but by and large, all of your things are set in stone, except the difference is now you have to read through like 30 different tooltips to understand how each one interacts with every single spell. And I found it really overwhelming because in tandem with learning the fights, learning the new raid, learning the timings, setting up my add-ons, my timers, my weak auras, I now also have to consider all of these different talents that are interacting. And it's one of those things where it's just practice, right? It comes with time. But whenever if you go to play a new class, it just seems so overwhelming. Anytime I play an alt, I'm going to be honest with you. I copy the build from Raider.io, I implement it, I'll read a couple of things, and that's about it. Like, I just feel like there's so much going on. I really didn't like it. I genuinely didn't like it.
I make sure before raid starts to have different loadouts in the talent manager like preloaded for each and every single boss. And it doesn't matter if it changes from boss to boss or not. Like I just have them loaded for each and every single one, because I found it impossible for me to be like, okay, this fight is like, a couple target cleave occasionally. I think I want like this talent and this talent. If I started like clicking them as I'm like running to the boss while we're killing trash, I'm definitely like showed up to the boss with the wrong build, like a couple of talents off at least. And I would just be annoyed if I showed up like with a couple talents off. So I just like pre-fire all of them. And that to me is just, in the past, you'd be like, all right, I hit the tome, all of my talents can get swapped. All right, I'm clicking this one. All right, I swapped my talents. We're good to go. Let's game.
So many of the talents is just hard to know what you're gaining or losing, like you look at the single target build and the AoE build, and it's like, well, what if you want a little bit more single target in the AoE build? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what if, you're really struggling, you want some prio damage, like you have no idea even where to go, right? I think to me, you were talking about, with the old system, you just had the same 8 that you selected all the time. In my opinion, they've stepped up the work that they put in on the talents by like tenfold since then. Like, to me, the biggest problem with the old talents was that they would never change them. You'd go into a new expansion and 2 of your talents would be different. Nowadays, it's like every other patch, they're reworking talents and changing the things they work. The tier sets are integrating with them. Like, if they put this much love into the old talent tree system, I feel like it would have been so much better. I know there are a lot of new talent enjoyers, so I don't want to harp on it too much because I've done that on a previous episode, but it does really feel like, for the most part, the illusion of choice. And there's like a couple things where it makes sense you can switch, but a lot of them, like, you just have no idea how much you're gaining or losing unless you go into the class Discord and you have some sim or whatever that tells you. And then you just have to trust that. Like, there was some mage thing, I'm not going to go into details, but essentially there's like a rotation that you do in your cooldowns. And apparently there's 2 different things you can do, and they're both exactly the same damage. And I'm just like, I just don't believe that. Like, how are you pressing your buttons 2 different ways? And it's like in a world where people min max down to the 0.1%, how is this possible that 2 different ways to press your buttons are exactly the same damage to the point where you can say do either of them? Like, I've never even seen that before.
I completely understand and empathize with people who like this. And as I've been playing more and playing all facets of content more, I am starting to fully grasp the totality of my talent build. And I can kind of move around freely in a professionalized way where I know if I take this, then I need to remove this and then therefore take that. Like, but it's a big, steep learning curve. I just kind of like the idea of less is more. I think if there was like 8 or 10 nodes like in the old talent build where you just pick like 3 out of 1 row, it's like it just feels more impactful rather than like because there's like half your talent tree is just sort of fluff talents that you're going to absolutely pick. You have to take
Yeah.
Dragon Rage, you have to take Animosity, you have to take Tyranny, you have to. There's so many that they're just mandatory, right? So it's like, why are they really even there as a talent build if you're going to get them anyway? So I just like the idea of less is more. Just more impactful, meaningful choices rather than like, you know, how many talent point total is there? Like 30 or
31.
something?
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know. And I get, and the crazy thing is like they're doubling down on this in Midnight, right? Like
I was literally just gonna say that Blizzard has heard your problems and they're now adding more talent points and Apex talents and quadruple hero talents. Like, oh man, when I heard that, I mean, look, I don't think it'll make that much of a difference either way, but it feels like, well, this is not the right direction to go.
I mean, they're balancing the game well, so it's not even like an issue of balance. Like
that's the crazy part, right? Like, I feel like balance is not bad at all again this season. Like, yeah, there's obviously some outliers, but I just don't understand how in the world they're doing this with this talent tree with these changes. Back from like BFA to Shadowlands, there's like, okay, Shaman's Earth Shield talent is different, and like that's the only change for the entire expansion. And I remember like making I literally vividly remember making the video for Shaman about what's new in the Shadowlands, and I'm like, it's literally like 1 minute of me talking.
YouTube short.
And that's it. Yeah, it's literally a YouTube short. And it's like nowadays the changes that they make and the balancing between talents is just absolutely crazy.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but like we're just getting outside of the hero talents, we're getting just more base talents. And
So-
again, it just kind of it's sort of like it's not even you're not even making choices because now with like what is it 3 or 4 extra talents next expansion, I just get to take everything. I don't even need to think about like what is it called? Like my the Terror of the Sky, like the stun for deep breath.
Oh,
or
yeah.
Sleepwalk. Like I just get that now, right? So I don't even need to think anymore. It's like, well, why is it even there if there is just really realistically no choice?
It's 3 class tree points, 4 spec tree points with Apex talents being added, and 3 new hero talent points, which go into the new 3 new hero talent point slots, which you can't change at all.
Like I don't know. I'm just trying to get as good as I can with my main, and the idea of playing an alt because I feel like I'm a competitive player inherently. I want to be the best that I can and play the best that I can. It just feels like there's such a higher like a floor now compared to before.
Dude, I wish more people had that attitude. It's like be the best you can be given your situation. It doesn't have like so many WoW players are just so all or nothing where it's like, why am I even going to try if I can't commit 10 hours a day to playing World of Warcraft? And it's like, dude, just try to be the best you can be inside your own given situation and just focus on that. Don't really worry about the extra, bullshit that's surrounding it.
It's hard. It's like I just want to like that is a very good mindset to have. It's so healthy, but it's so hard, right? Like to not compare yourselves to people around you is like one of the hardest challenges in life in general, not even just WoW, like to go into a key and look at the damage of someone else, like another guy in your raid, but like you don't even know, right? Like that guy could be me in disguise, like some chronically online guy who's playing 12 hours a day and looking at every guide and has every top player on this friends list or whatever that he can just message and like get advice from. And it's like, how do you even compete with that realistically? And it's hard. It's hard to not. That is the nature of WoW. Like you have details meters in your face and parse numbers. And even if you try not to care, everybody in your guild's talking about it. Everyone's posting their stupid sims in the guild Discord or whatever. And it's just like, yeah, I don't know. It's hard, but I guess that's a funny thing about talents is maybe if you just don't even care about anything and just click all the buttons, I'm sure the new talent trees are fun, but who doesn't care about anything in WoW nowadays?
It's so insane that you say that about talents. To me, it's like Hard Mode Tazavesh is like the peak example of that, where I wish people would worry So I worry a little bit less about being perfect with the hard mode, and instead just more focus on like having fun like during the process of it. Like that to me, I feel like would ease the tension a little bit. Where like it's okay to fail your hard mode. Like I know some people are gonna be like, oh yeah, it's not fine, but like it is genuinely fine to fail your hard mode. It's probably not going to do anything different with your gearing long
Yeah,
term.
well, I think it's just the feeling of it, and
yeah,
for instance,
I get it, but like,
well, the problem is like if you're the one that fails, it feels like shit, right? Like I don't think anyone's gonna blow up at your team and be like, oh, like so we had a hard mode. We talked about it last week. I don't know if Farfa heard it, but our Shadow Priest didn't skill kick, and so we walk into the Solea or whatever, the one that jumps around the walls.
So
It jumps
Asmi,
next to our
yeah.
Shadow Priest. Not only does our Shadow Priest not have kick, but he's also a guy who doesn't use his mic, like he doesn't talk in Discord. So he's
Oh,
just standing there by So Asmi with no kick, and we're all like, and then we just die. And it's like none of us were mad, it's whatever, but I'm sure he felt like shit, right? I'm sure it's like, you probably felt like a dumbass when that happened. So yeah, I don't know. Like I think in general people aren't that serious, I think, with it in general, but it definitely feels bad when you don't get your item or you're causing other people not to get their items.
Yeah.
You mentioned something very funny, which was the comparison thing. So I've never been in this situation before because I was a Havoc Demon Hunter for a long time, and you would basically play one. So I'm in a position where there's a second Dev Evoker in the raid. And like, I don't know if you guys have ever been in this position, but I'm like constantly like
Oh yeah.
subconsciously competing. Like, okay, I need to be the better Dev Evoker here. Like, do you know what I mean? Like
damage envy. DPS
Right,
envy.
No, that is, dude, it is brutality for me. So I'm basically, this is my first year I've ever progged as a DPS, and I'm also progging as a mage. And the other mage in my guild is Blue Gotti, who is like someone who's played in like multiple top whatever guilds. Not only is he someone who's insanely good, he's like a lifetime mage. Also, he is the greediest motherfucker you will ever see. Like this guy will like, he is completely out of control with how greedy he plays. And every boss is just 99, 100, 99, 100. It's like, this is the guy that I'm playing mage with. And it's like, it's silly for me to compare myself to him. But yeah, absolutely. I'm like sitting here like watching, I'm like, before the poll, you like Evo, right? To like channel up your buffs or whatever. I'm like staring at his character to see when he
What
Evos.
is
I'm like,
he
am I doing it half a second earlier? Like, how is this opener doing so much better? I'm like, instead of doing my rotation, I'm like looking at him and I'm like seeing where he's standing. And oh yeah, it doesn't bother me that much, but I definitely find myself doing it this season, this raid for sure. I have major mage envy.
I found it to be better to use those people as like learning assets. You'll like log review yourself, but you'll log review yourself simultaneously of like log reviewing what the other person in your guild is also doing. And you'll be like, okay, so what are they doing differently? Is what they're doing better than what I thought of initially? Or like you even like during raid, you'll bounce ideas off of them, because to me, it's always kind of been about the collective, not about the individual performance. But you can certainly reach the mindset
It's a
where you're like,
subconscious thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's a subconscious thing where if you see them higher than you on the damage meter by even like 3 or 4%, you're like, oh my god, what am I doing wrong? Have I griefed?
Dude, so like in it's actually so funny what the problem was, which is maybe another issue with more learning curve in this game. So we did our, I no longer do the Wednesday thing. I did the one Wednesday run for normal mode, and then I have a commitment on Wednesday evening. It's a Yu-Gi-Oh tournament. So I can't do Wednesday evenings. So they were, they already did the Wednesday run this past week. So Thursday we go into clear heroic, and he's just beating me on every boss. And I'm like,
Yep.
trying to understand like what's going on here. And I'm going into like the Warcraft log, like comparisons and stuff like
Yep.
that. I'm just like trying to understand like what. And I'm looking at it, and it's like he's just hitting things harder somehow with like, and I'm
Yup.
like, I don't understand why. And then at the end of the night, someone tags me in the Discord and they say, Farfa, why didn't you hand in the quest? And I'm like, what quest? So there's a quest.
The 3%. Yep. Yep.
Who teaches you these things? So I just spent an entire heroic clear and raid prog night on Lumathar with just minus 3% damage. And like, well, I didn't know that was a thing. Yeah, like that wasn't a thing when I raided back in Dragonflight. That wasn't a thing when I raided in Shadowlands. Like, so there's a quest that you need to do once every 2 weeks that just gives you more damage.
Yeah, it's the Renown turn-in quest, and they previously had them at the very beginning of the instance for both Nerebar and Liberation of Undermine, which now it's outside the raid, which for obvious reasons is really annoying.
So I got that quest when we cleared, and I was just like, oh, this is just some lore bullshit. I don't care, whatever. I'll hand it in whenever. And it turns out it was a 3% damage buff. Like,
Yeah.
oh, that was a little bit embarrassing.
I
but,
love seeing the progression of Farfa. I can't wait till the Farfa episode where he finally turns on resilient keys. I'm seeing it right now. The elitist WoW player in him is just growing. He's already getting a new computer. He's already looking at logs, like trying to beat the shit out of the other guy in the raid. Like, oh man,
Dude,
this is gonna be so good. I love this new Farfa.
one thing leads to another. Farfa's learning German and joining Northern Sky. Gonna be in the best 3-day guild in the world. He's gonna.
Fun
can't
fact
wait.
about Northern Sky, by the way. So I was, again, like I said, I was fighting my UI. So on like the first night of Dimensius, I just have these fucking bars just in like my face, and I'm trying to look through the weak cards. I'm like, what is this? Why do I just have this giant like health bar of those like phase 1 ads in the middle of my screen the entire time? So apparently, the weak aura pack is designed for a 1080p monitor or a 1440p monitor at a 0.75 UI scale. So basically, I just installed the wrong like version of the weak aura where you basically had to like fiddle around with the aspect ratio and then move some of the anchors. So yeah, TLDR, that was like something I did wrong. The anchors were just shifted slightly away because I have an awkward monitor size. Like that was like a weird learning curve as well. So yeah, I hate weak auras, but I also love them because, oh my god, just telling me to like press spiral, press knock is it's super useful.
It's certainly not it's not that they play the game for you. It's the game would be ridiculously unplayable if you didn't have them, which is like I think the key difference there.
Yeah, because like historically, like what would it even be? It's like, boss ability X number 3 is when you have to use your cooldown. So like what would you realistically do before that? I don't know, just have a notepad on your other monitor with a boss timer weak aura, right?
Yes.
Like
Yep.
yeah, like
that was something I was notoriously bad at. Like that was like one of the biggest things that my raid leader would always say is like you're just forgetting to use things when you need to. But it's so hard, right? Like you have a 10-minute fight and it's like, all right, win rush totem at 1 minute 35 and 4 minutes 12 and 7 minutes 15. And it's like you don't press your win rush down and then all of the DPS just die and they're like, oh, where's a win rush? And it's just like, all right, well, I actually understand that, and it's funny that you say that because I feel like I benefit a lot from the stupid reminders thing too, where I just never miss anything because it just yells it in my face every time.
like in some ways it is like a skill to have, but at the same time it's like as you're progressing a fight, you start to sort of get like the muscle memory of when each like minor ability comes off cooldown. So it's like, okay, I know I have fire breath for this set. I know that my hover comes up for this mechanic, so I can move and dodge these discs while I disintegrate, which exactly brings up the next fire breath for this set of. So you've got all of this stuff running in your mind constantly, but then you have this like one cooldown that you press twice a fight.
Yep.
And you're just gonna forget that if you don't have like these add-ons to just remind you, hey, press Renewing Blaze now, press Zephyr now.
Things are just so tight, right? Like I think that's part of it is because we have these tools, they make the fights that tough where it's like if you didn't press your time spiral and the rest of the shaman didn't use his thing and the priest didn't grip because of that time spiral, like you just die. Because like, oh, your disc priest didn't have the ramp for that damage event and it does 250% of everybody's health in 5 seconds. So I think I do see a world where there's no reminders, you know what I mean? And then you just sort of natty do it. But then the fights, I would think, wouldn't be as so tight where you'd have to, you wouldn't need to use every single thing at precise moments, except for maybe like, a last boss or whatever, where you're expected to pull it many, many times.
I think like the best way to describe it is like Pandora's box has been opened and WoW has evolved to be this way for so long now. And I think them trying to do like this massive shift in philosophy of add-on changes is exciting, but also it's going to be a crazy change. It's going to feel like a different game when this eventually happens.
I think that most people kind of feel a similar way where it's like immediate first reaction is like skeptical of Blizzard to be able to pull stuff like this off. But I do like if they are able to like pull off the disarming of add-ons, honestly, too, if they could reduce the amount of CC and defenses that everybody has, too, just like a disarming of like kind of everything at the exact same time, the game would feel way different. But we don't have to go back to, let's say, classic. It doesn't have to be like a vanilla game. It can just be like less fast paced and up in your face like it is right now, which I think that would be. I don't know that it would be better, but I do think it would be easier to play, and I think that has some advantages for sure.
Yeah. And I've always like tried to go over in my head, like, well, how do you make fun, engaging, interesting mechanics without the necessity or of weak auras, right? It's like you either make the game really twitchy, where you constantly have to react to things,
That sucks.
which is right, or you make it a very elaborate scripted dance where you have to move and do things in a certain way, which beg for the necessity of playing weak auras. Like one example I can think of was like last phase of Mythic Dimensius, where it's like go here, 10 seconds later go here, now move here, now you need to move here, and it's like you couldn't really do that natty. I think. I mean, I guess some people could, but like for the average raiding guild, it's like I don't know. It's just weird. It's like, how do you make interesting mechanics without add-ons, right? That's like a whole different change in game design and boss design that they would have to approach, which sounds exciting but scary.
I think
cautious apprehension.
The gut reaction is like Blizzard has gone away from like 2 or 3 people have the jobs of your fight and they just do them. And instead they've really gone into all 20 players are going to participate at random. Good luck. And that is like a very different experience. I think like if you got back to like specializations or classes doing very specific jobs on bosses and got away from it's like, all right, you're gonna have to do this thing at random. Like I think that the gameplay would be a little bit easier because I mean, what is even a good example of that like this tier? Like every mechanic I feel like just hits all 20 players randomly. Like add drops.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
Forge Weaver.
It's not technically everybody. The best example that I could think of that like was noticeable was is it Sprocket?
Soul
The boss,
Hunter
like,
debuffs. The Sprocket soaks, yeah.
Sprocket, Sprocket's the drills that range would get. Like that was one where that was not an easy to understand mechanic. Like you would need to know where to go in every single drill and as every single range player, right? That was one that I remember was like, normally when there's a mechanic, at least like older WoW, if there's a mechanic where anybody in the raid can get it at random, usually it's like something very self-explanatory and very simple, right? Like, oh, you get this debuff, you have to run out of the raid and get dispelled, or like, oh, you get this, you have to go into the raid and then you soak it, right? Not normally it's like a formational, like, oh, if you're this drill and you're blue, then you need to go to the wall and then move in this direction and make an L and drop them this way. Like the average mechanic that every single person in the raid is expected to get is like very, very difficult, I think.
This season has like a couple, I think, that are like jobs, like the Dispel Puddle Soaks on Soul Hunters is one, and then like the Dimensius carrying the excess mass is the other one, but like realistically, that's still not. I think about the course of the raid, it's not much.
The end of Salad Bar, like the lines and hitting the stars, I think is a really hard one that I see a lot of people struggling with.
It's RNG, yeah. Like, well, it's RNG aside from the fact that it goes on your tank, but everybody else it's RNG. All right. Any final thoughts, Farfa? I know it's getting late there.
No.
Did we want to talk about the lever system? I'm wondering your
the vote to abandons.
So there was a little story told 1 or 2 podcasts ago about a certain plus 14 lever. That was actually me. It was I was held hostage, I suppose, by a guild who was doing a plus 14 priory. We reached the point where it was a deplete. There was no shot we were going to time it. So I voted to abandon. And they wanted to keep going to get a trinket. I didn't want to do a plus 14 deplete. I was listening to your guys' discussion about it and stuff. I guess just to really give you the basic take here, it's like, in my opinion, I think if you're doing anything that's 11 or higher, you're not doing it for gear. You're doing it for score. So if score is not attainable, why are we still here? Right? Week 1, I think that can maybe be fine, right? It's like 2 birds with 1 stone. Let's get some gear and maybe a bit of score. But a 14? A 14? That's really high for an average pub group, right? Like, do we really want to bash our heads against like these tyrannical bosses and all these big pulls and one-shot AoEs for like some guy's trinket that I don't know? Like, I don't know. I just feel like the lever system has been fine for me. Like it hasn't caused any issues. If anything, it's been a detriment because it's like, well, we're done now because we depleted in the first like 20 seconds from multiple wipes on like that giant halls pull, for example. So it's like, okay, well, let's leave now. Oh, wait, no, but there's like a minimum timer before you can vote to abandon. Can we leave? Can we not leave? Like, do you know what I mean? So I feel like the lever system should be there for people who are just trying to do their weeklies. Um, because yeah, if you deplete a 10, it's like whatever, fine, but let's finish it for vault. That's when I think you should maybe be punished. But I feel like leaving a key because you're not gonna get score seems reasonable to me. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
that's how it's always been, right? Like, it's
yeah.
always been if you're in a key that's not a, like literally you label it as a weekly or a no leaver, right? If you're expecting people to stay, like that's how it's always been. Where okay, keys depleted, you leave. Obviously, we're not talking about people who leave, because they're idiots, even though you can still time the key. Like we're talking about a depleted key. Yeah, but that's changed, right? Blizzard's basically said no, you can't do that anymore. Like now you're just always expected to stay. I mean, in your defense, now that I have more experience like pugging and doing random keys, I would say overwhelmingly everybody always wants to abandon and leave. Like that is by far the expectation if you do a key in LFG. Like there I almost don't even get to vote. Like it literally we wipe in a key. There's been at least 3 different times where I've done a Dawnbreaker. There's the mini boss that you lust that shoots the orb. And a sneaky change that they've made this season is that that orb can target the tank. And many longtime tank players are not ready for that orb to target them. So they will throw it up at the wall, blow your whole team up as soon as you pop lust, and then abandon, vote, leave. And that's happened to me 3 times this week so far, where it's just I don't even vote. Like it just abandon, vote up, pass. Everybody, I'm just poured out of the dungeon instantaneously. Like no discussion whether or not you were gonna finish the key at all, or if it's timeable or anything. I actually think for the people that like to stay in keys, I think the lever system will end up being a detriment to them because of how easy it is now to throw up and abandon, right? Like, let's say that happens. Let's say you wipe on the lust pull and you're sitting here, right? And you're like, yeah, this is probably depleted. A lot of people don't want to be that guy, right? To go into the chat and be like, should we leave now? Is this depleted? You don't want to be that guy. Maybe you'll just play or you'll see what everyone else in your group does. But now you just silently throw up the abandon. I was in a group with some friends or like I had 2 friends and 2 pugs, and I threw up an abandon vote that got passed, and they didn't even know it was me. They thought it was one of the pugs that did it. So Dorky was like, "Oh, I need the trinket, blah blah blah," and then just passed, and he gets taken out of the dungeon. It's like they didn't even know that I was the one that voted. Like it is so easy now to get your team out of the dungeon, and like, what do? You just you generally, I think most of the time you just want to go with the flow of what's happening around you. So when you see people wanting to abandon, what do? You say, "Oh, sure, I don't care, whatever. The key's fucked." Yes. And so I think way more keys are going to get abandoned now. Will the identification of these chronic levers, I know they do exist. I don't think there's many of them, but I know they do exist. Will that make it a better trade-off? I don't think it will. Like I think in general, those guys are kind of easy to identify, and I think that just in general, if you like finishing keys, you're gonna have a worse time now with the new system.
Have you guys noticed more people now more than ever have expressed the feeling like they've been held hostage in a dungeon? I feel like I haven't ever seen that except for this season.
That's such a funny term because hostage is such like it's such a serious thing, and like if that's ever happened to you, you'd probably like a literal life traumatizing experience. And then you just have us WoW players that are like, oh my god, I'm a hostage. I have to be in a priory for 10 more minutes. I'm guilty of it too. I'm not saying that I don't use the terminology. It's just funny that everyone's saying that now.
It's just really weird because like not to like sound too arrogant, but I feel like I've never been in a situation for many seasons now where I needed a leave system like this because I've just played keys where naturally by default, like more often than not, if I'm doing a 10 or lower, even if it depletes, we'll just all mutually agree to finish it for the weekly or for some gear. But anytime it's been above that, it's for score, and everyone just mutually agrees. Okay, well,
Yeah.
we're not getting score. Let's dip. I've never felt like I needed a leave system. So I'm sure this is definitely an issue that happens maybe around the 7 to 10 level, and that's a good system there. Maybe I'm not the person qualified to talk about this. I really don't feel like I needed a lever system. If anything,
all right, time to talk about resilient keys. This is how I feel about resilient keys, right? So think about you, right? You're sitting here and you're saying, okay, no, hold on, no, come on, let me get it. Let me get it here, okay? This is how you feel now, right? You're sitting here and you're thinking, well, this is a system that's made for these 10s and it probably is better for those people, right? But why is this in my key? Like, why is this existing in my 14 key? This doesn't feel like it's for me. That's how I feel about resilient keys, where it's like, I'm not saying it's not benefiting tons of people, but like, why is title pushing now? We just have to do 19 priory for 12 hours straight. You don't rebuttal it. Just let me have my W. And
Okay,
all the
fine.
people in the comments will be mad.
I don't even understand the
Last word.
correlation, but sure.
I don't either. Just let him cook. But yeah, I mean, circling back to the levers thing, I think it kind of depends. I was talking to Evade about this. It kind of depends on what's implied whenever you actually join a group. And like last season, if you join that 14, you are well within your rights to just like slam, leave. There's no even vote to abandon. There's no even consideration for the other people in that group. But now it's like, has that implication whenever you join a 14 changed, that it is no longer a 4-score key, that every key is for completion? Personally, I kind of side with you, where I think that, you know, there's this kind of understood rule that you're joining a 14. Once the key is depleted, it's over. We're getting out of here. But for the other people in the group, I mean, clearly there was this expectation that they had some say as to what was happening there, and to the point where they wanted this 14 for completion, which I would say is atypical. I mean, I think that is not normal player experience.
I think like if people do generally believe this is an issue, maybe Blizzard needs to make it mandatory that when you list a key, you have to list whether it's timer or completion. I think that's a very easy fix.
Complete opt-in system. That's how it definitely should be.
I just think it's a very bizarre expectation to complete a 14. Not for score. I don't know.
I think I don't know. Expectation is a tough word, but like I've always been a person where unless someone's like being an asshole or I'm really tilted, like if someone says like, "Hey, will you finish this?" I'll just like do it anyway, you know. But before the problem is you had to go out of your way to do it, right? Whereas now you're just penalized if you leave, and it is the expectation, I guess. That's why I use that word.
Here's the thing.
Correct.
This is really interesting because I've always clarified this. Anytime like I've played like my 4th rat alt with like a bunch of friends, we'll invite like some high ranked like tank or something for like a +10 because we're just trying to get our weekly, but this guy's clearly trying to do a weekly but like efficiently. And like I very clearly clarified at the start of the key, hey, by the way, we might not time this. Are you down for finishing? And more often than not, they're like, yeah, sure, why not? Like there's a clarification about that. So if they really wanted to finish this +14 priory for gear, like maybe I would have committed if they asked, but I just feel like there's an assumption, and maybe it's bad to assume.
Exactly.
But I really do feel like the default assumption for a 14 is this is for score, not for completion. So that's basically it.
Is the fact that they can, as a 4-stack, vote you down on you wanting to leave the group? I guess that to me, I was like, ooh, that seems a little bit weird that they can vote you down and force you to basically take a lever penalty on something that is a depleted key. That seems strange.
So whenever I've done the vote to abandon on a depleted higher key, it's almost like as soon as you click it, you start animating.
Yep, insta-pass. Every time.
You're stunned, you're zoned out. We're out of here.
So I clicked vote to abandon and nothing happened. And I'm sitting there like moving my character like, am I lagging? Like what's going on? Why am I not porting out? And then suddenly I just see like the tank run in and pull the next pack. And I'm like, what are we doing here? We're not leaving? Like, what are we doing? And they're like, oh, I need the trinket. I'm like, that's not my problem. Like, maybe that's toxic. I don't know, but it was bizarre.
All right.
I kind of need to dip soonish.
All right,
we'll get up.
We can call it there. Thank you so much, Farfa, for coming on. Where can people find you?
If for some reason you want Yu-Gi-Oh content, it's just Farfa across all the socials: Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, Twitch. That's where you can find some Yu-Gi-Oh content, I suppose, with the occasional, rant about like Teddles coming into the chat to give bad takes on Yu-Gi-Oh as well. It's crazy.
Listen, there's no bad takes. I just think that they, for some reason, Konami keeps giving these people $50,000 prize cards instead of giving them cash. And I think that that's ridiculous that they have to turn their stupid esport into like this bartering system where you have to sell a card on the secondhand market as opposed to just giving somebody. Anyways, all right, I'm out of here. We're out of here. Thanks so much, Farfa, for coming on.
Last thing, just really quick, I want to clarify. Like again, if there's one takeaway that people take from this episode, like when I come on to like give like a quote unquote casual perspective, just to emphasize, I don't see casual as a mentality shift. Well, to some extent, it's a mentality shift, but for the most part, it's about still trying to be the best player you can be, still playing in an optimized sort of min-max style of gameplay. You just have less time than other people, and I don't think sometimes people get mixed lost in the weeds with that. They think like a casual is someone who's just like doing weekly delves, and to some extent that is a different category of casual. But I guess like when I think of casual, I'm more referring to sort of casual competitive rather than casual like mount collector or something.
Well, according to the comment section, a casual is anybody who plays the game less serious than them, and a sweat is anybody who plays the game more serious than them. And so you didn't conform
That's how
to
I
their
feel about
norms.
Murky and his resilient keys.
Don't worry, Farfa. They'll love you. I think I'll be farming the L's in the comments of this one once again. Don't worry.
Girl started heal.
Thanks, guys. Peace out. Take care.
All right, and that was great. It's always nice to catch up with Farfa. I feel like he always brings like pretty well balanced takes to the podcast. He's the man of the people.
I love the transformation. I love the transformation of Farfa, and I think that he's also while he's sort of recognized that like okay, he's kind of playing at a higher level now, like he's a little bit more serious than a lot of WoW players are. I think there's still a lot, like a big chunk of people that think about and play the game like that, right? Like that's a lot of people who enjoyed WoW at one point. Maybe they're at a point in their lives where they can't play all day, but they still want to, raid with the boys or check out the patch or whatever. But and they care about playing well, and I think that makes up. I don't want to use the phrase like mid-core, but sort of, right? Like they're not trying to be the best in the world, but they do genuinely care about their performance and do well. And I think that I can't wait for the progression of Farfo as he's moving up the raid ladder ranks and parses and stuff. I mean, you already see it, right? You know what's happening.
It's one of those things. I mean, he called it like what, competitive casual. Optimizing is fun, like in World of Warcraft. And
I mean that's the game.
Yeah, that's one of those things that it's really fun whenever you like actually optimize. And that brings us to one of our questions that we had this week for the Q&A. If you want, you can DM your Q&A to @thebenchwow on Twitter, or just tweet it at us, and we will be able to pull up your Q&A. And this week, the first question says, you guys are mostly into group content and don't care for much other aspects of the game. What is something about yourself as a person that makes you drawn to group content so much? Girl, you want to field this one first while I fix this overlay?
Yeah. So there's two things. One of them, not to argue with the point, but I also appreciate some solo content as well. Not to say that I never like solo content, but WoW just isn't always the game for that for me. But there is some stuff that's cool. Like one thing I've randomly liked is the like the single player, like maintain something and then make a little bit of gold out of it. Like in MOP, it was like the Tiller's farm, and then eventually WoD, they do like the mission table, which was around for a while, and then but that's sort of kind of been gone, I feel like, lately from WoW. But I generally like those things, like something that you just kind of like mess around with in the morning when you're waking up and having your coffee or so.
Yeah.
But to me, like just spending a lot of time in a game is not something that I do as solo. For me, I just genuinely enjoy the social aspect and like meeting new people, and especially cool people that I get along with. Like, how often do you join a group or whatever, or like add a guy to your call and he just doesn't even talk and he just types in the chat and he's like shy or boring or whatever. But like, we had 4 people last night and we were doing keys and we couldn't find a 5th, and we just like randomly pick up this guy for like a high key pug. And like he just joins the call and he's like, yo, what's up, guys? And he's like social and he's joking around with us. And we're like memeing. And it was like, we had a really good time. It was like a really fun key. We're basically we're doing Gambit, and like we did some really stupid pull where there was way too many scale binders and there's 5 fish sticks and we had like a 4-minute pull. And like in any other pug, it would just be like this awkward silence where nobody's talking and everyone's angry, but like we're just laughing and joking around, and and it's like, I think I while I'm a nerd and I'm chronically online, I also can be really social, and I like the social aspect of like, I feel like a lot of people who are quiet and like that, you just need the right type of people that you mesh with, and then you can kind of open up and have a good time. And that's what I like about WoW, is it's very easy to find people that are like me that I can get along with.
So I think that for me, it's like, it's the social aspects. I think the social aspects keep me drawn to the group content. It's also the I'm addicted to like progression, and I'm not talking about like character progression, but it's like I'm addicted to like watching myself get better at something over time, whether it be, being able to get so good that you're able to time that next key level higher, watching your guild get better on a boss. It can be the same thing in like other video games. Like for me, climbing ladder in TFT, I find that to be particularly fun. And so it's like the progression of World of Warcraft is group focused, right? It's an MMORPG and it's all group focused. And so that's why I don't really care so much about the other aspects of the game, because the group content has that, progression, like that progression of the content that you are able to continue to see. And so I think that that's the bigger reason. I'm kind of similar to Growl, where I don't actually mind the solo content. I really had a lot of fun doing the Kaiveza ? Difficulty. They just don't design really good solo player content for people like me, which I think is a little bit of a shame. I actually really enjoyed the Kaiveza. So if they're gonna make cool stuff like that again in the future, I would be down. But it's more, it's just one of those things that like I just don't get that same progression level experience. And then I also use WoW as my social outlet. Like it's an MMORPG. Very candidly, don't have a ton of friends in real life. It's just how it is. I use WoW as a large portion of my social outlet.
Yeah, another thing I want to add, and I don't want you to say this in a bad way, because this is like me describing my life, is like it's sort of like the pseudo team competitive thing, right? Like let's say you play a competitive sport or a competitive video game or whatever. Like working together with your friends to try and conquer something is fun. Except for unfortunately now I'm like old and washed. Like when I was younger, I was the most competitive piece of shit. I played like really high level Guild Wars. I played high level Dota 2 and Han, like very, team coordination strategies, thinking about how you interact with the people around you. Like, and that's what I really like about WoW, is it sort of has that, but in like a much more mellow way, in a way that you still have to try and put effort forth, but in a way where the computer isn't going to adapt to you and like outsmart your strategies, right? Like once you kind of come up with the strategy and progress it, you kind of like, okay, we did it, we're done, like that's sort of the problem with PvP games, is it evolves and gets harder and harder and harder, and you have to keep getting better and better and better. And I'm just like, I don't know, I'm old and I'm washed, but you kind of have that resemblance of that. And when you play, especially Mythic Plus, right? Like it's a lot less scripted and a lot more playing off of your teammates, what defensives they have, who needs help. Okay, the tank's really strong, just like thinking about how your party's doing and interacting in that way is really, really fun.
It can also be social too, where you're just kind of like hanging out with the boys and just like doing keys for a couple hours, and there's like there can be a low pressure environment to Mythic, which I think can be fun.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing, and we talked a little about it with Farfa, and I feel like people take it the wrong way when I talk about like doing keys below your level or whatever. I don't mean that in like a you're not as good as you think you are way, but more so like I just wish people enjoyed keys more when they're not playing for score. Like keys are just fun, like doing keys and trying your guy and trying stuff. Like people should really have more enjoyment over doing like just doing something that's other than score. Like I get everybody loves score and it's always fun when you get score, but just like doing keys for fun and trying stuff and joking around.
Yeah.
Like, what if you do this poll? Like, not everything needs to be super serious all the time.
Exactly. All right. Next question we got from Sean. He says, what do you do to prevent tilting whenever things are going poorly? One thing I found that surprisingly is helpful is turning off the damage meters, but I'm curious what other people are doing to stay chill when that one guy in your raid team / Mystic Plus team keeps throwing. So I think this is multifaceted. First off, personally, I don't get tilted at other people most of the time. It's pretty rare that I'm going to get tilted at other people, especially if they're like, even if they're playing bad. Like to me, that I'm mostly tilt proof from other people. I get just beyond tilted if personally I feel like I'm playing poorly. And so historically, I actually find that turning off damage meters is also helpful for me, because it kind of takes this, you always are kind of like glancing at your damage meter, trying to see where you are on the meter and stuff like that. And if you turn them off, you actually stop being aware of where you are. And it helps me just kind of into this state where I'm just focused on my own play and making sure that I am dealing with like the mechanics or what's next. And I found that to be a little bit helpful. I think standing up, like asking for a break, or like asking, like if you're in a raid, be like, can I take a $5? I know, our break's supposed to be 20 minutes from now, but I need this break right now. I'm playing awful. I need to like walk around my house. That can also be super helpful, kind of depending on who you are. You have any advice?
On the topic of damage meters, an important thing to note that you might not know is you can actually call for reset overall. So if you're doing a Mythic Plus dungeon and like especially when your healer doesn't heal you, or like, or you make a mistake and you die in your cooldowns, and you're going to be seeing that overall being at the bottom for the whole dungeon. You can actually just call for your team to reset the overall, and that means everyone has to press reset on their details and the dungeon starts anew. Now, you can't do that often because then it diminishes the power of reset overall, but as long as you're reasonable with how often you say it, then everybody has to do it. I think
what about whenever your tank quits mid progression on a raid fight and stuff like that?
Oh man, dude. So I completely forgot about this when we were talking about raid at the beginning of the pod, but so we've been having tank problems pretty much unanimously, like every single tier, every single pair of tanks. We end up picking up this guy who was like kind of good. Like he wasn't really having problems. He was kind of like, just doing his job. He communicated. We like generally had all like positive things to say about him. So we actually helped to gear him up a warrior because he was progging on a different class. So we're on Nexus King Saladar. We do like, whatever, our first half of raid. We take a break. I'm I go AFK, watching a cooking video or whatever, cleaning up my room, come back. Our tank is just gone. He's gone out of the raid. He's gone out of the guild. He's gone out of the guild Discord. He didn't say a single word and he's just gone. And so our tank just left in the minute. And it was so like normally if your tank was gone, right, you would just assume it was an emergency. But like he left the Discord, he left the guild. Like this wasn't a oh no DC emergency. Like this was quitting in the middle of a break.
Oh no, this is over. That guy's gone.
Oh yeah, he's mega gone. So honestly, it was so funny. Like I could not stop laughing. Like it is just our guild in a nutshell. But luckily, we had another tank on deck, so we rolled them up and we're ready, and we're back in salad bar progression. But yeah, on the topic of other people making mistakes, I think for me the tilting part is the combination of the two, like what he said and what you said. So like this will happen, right? Let's say you like finally feel like you've gotten good at a phase and you're like doing it well every time. You're like, okay, I'm ready for phase 2. Your teammates just keep messing up. You don't get to phase 2. Then you sort of like start to check out mentally, and then you're the one that messes up and dies. And then it's like you feel, it feels like, oh, if it wouldn't have taken the guild so long to figure this out, I would have been ready. But now I'm just like getting so bored of the same part of the fight that I've mastered over and over again that, well, maybe I didn't master it, but you know what I mean? So I definitely feel that kind of tilt a little bit. Maybe that's just I'm bad and that's an excuse that I'm using. But I think ultimately you just have to constantly just focus on your own play, whether it's playing for fun, whether it's doing the best you can, whatever it is that you enjoy about playing, focus on that. Because ultimately, if you're doing well, you shouldn't really be tilted, right? Like if you're in a raid night or in a dungeon or whatever, but like you're blasting, but your team sucks, like I don't know, that's not really that bad of an experience. Like usually it's a funny story, right? Like you go into a dungeon and you're doing double the overall of either DPS and you somehow deplete this key even though you're blasting. Like I mean, you shouldn't like that's just funny, I think. I don't know, maybe some people might get really angered by that, but for me, I guess just try and focus more on your own whatever, whether it's fun or gameplay and not the results. Like I think and it's so hard in WoW, right? Because your results are everything. Your results are what gear you get, which is how much damage you do and what IO you have and will you get invited and your logs and how good people think you are. So I definitely understand the being tied to results, but coming from a poker background, I think that helps me of just like, well, when you gamble, like random things can happen. Like you don't really like
what's your
results
EV? What's your EV?
Like, yeah, exactly, right? Like results over a long time frame kind of matter, but like you can't just, oh, how well did I play? Like this happened. Like you really just have to hone in on whatever it is that you enjoy about the game and not so much like, did I win or did I lose? Like when you're playing at a high level, you really shouldn't do that in any type of game.
I think that if it gets really bad, like bad enough, okay, so fortunately enough for Mythic Plus, you only have to play with those people in that one run, then you can kind of quit. In Mythic Plus, you can find new people. In Raid, if it's really bad, like you think like you can't get this thought out of your head, these people are holding me back. Not even like I'm tilted, like these people are genuinely holding me back. That's like the next level of tilt where you just kind of come to the understanding that these people I'm not built for this guild. You can just find a new guild. There's a guild for everybody, right? And I do understand that most people use it as a social outlet. But I do think it's like kind of a situation where if you think that you're being held back and you want more, you're
Well, you
always
shouldn't be getting tilted, right?
So-
Like
so
if you're in a
you're-
guild,
exactly,
if you're in a
yes.
bad guild with a bunch of your friends, like you shouldn't be getting mad, right? Well, I don't know. I guess maybe
you
another.
can always have this
Growl
if you have this creeping thought in the back of your mind where it's like these people are holding me back, you're going to grow to resent them in a way that I think is not particularly productive. And so I think that you might be in the business of looking for a new guild, for better or worse.
Yeah, I think again, I think that's important, is to recognize that frustration of like, well, if this is supposed to be your friend chill guild, but you're just like getting mad that everybody sucks, then maybe you shouldn't be in a friend chill guild, or maybe like get in a real guild and then see if you can fit it in where your alt's in that guild and you just mess around on your alt with them or whatever.
Turning off the damage meters does help me relax. So I mean, it's something that you pointed out, but like I think that turning off the damage meters will help me relax. It's gotten really bad. I've self-sat myself on a boss before because I was playing so bad and I was tilted. It's been a while though. That was on Mechatork. That boss is the devil. But
Oof.
there are ways to mitigate it, but like I think that like as long as you take what Growl said and you just really focus on your own gameplay, that's probably the best way of mitigating it. Don't really worry about what's going on surrounding you.
Oh, the thing that gets me is like really badly designed fights or like really tilting fights or like bugs. That's one that'll tilt me off the face.
Mechatork just triggered the fuck out of me. I just kept getting hit by the Buster shot behind the wall, and it's just like it was the hardest thing to do. It was so triggering. Like
that's me and Mop. I like crashed out of my last Mop raid because like, dude, Heart of Fear is like the worst raid they've ever made.
If I die a lot to like bleeding out too, I can actually get pretty triggered because I feel like that I should be the person that's able to stop myself from bleeding out, but like realistically, that's not exactly the truth of the situation all the time. But that is something that will trigger the fuck out of me.
A terrible healer secret, and maybe this isn't true, but I felt your position on the frame actually like kind of matters, as dumb as that is.
I know.
Because a lot of times I felt this as mage too, where like it's one thing if you're bleeding out, but like if your whole raid is bleeding out, that's one thing. But if it's just you that's bleeding out over and over again, you feel like it's your fault, right? Like if you're the guy that's like the first one to die or bleed out, it's not like, oh, the healers aren't healing. They are healing everyone else but you somehow. But like, yeah, I've definitely, that's one thing that I notice as a healer in raid, and I'll actually move my frames around because I notice that happening. And like, oh, all of the people that are in danger are like for some reason in the bottom left of my frames, and it's like, yeah, it's like really stupid, but it is a thing.
I remember on the Jailer, so Jailer was 4 healed, and I was in group 4 with all the healers. It was just me and all the healers in group 4, and I just kept bleeding out. Like I was like really far from like the rest of the raid too, because I was doing one of the far chain lightnings, and then I just kept bleeding out. And like one of the days I was like, dude, like what exactly needs to change? And one of the healers goes, I'm going to be completely honest with you, because you're in our group, you were just like the lowest priority in the raid for healing. And I was like,
never heal other healers.
And it was one of those things that was like, I accept that answer, but man, I'm mad that I've just been like dying. Because I feel like, I pull up death stats on Warcraft logs, and I'm looking at death stats, and I see that I'm dying a lot, but I'm like, I don't feel like I should be high on this. This is annoying. It's just like, oh man.
Blame healers.
That to me triggers me, but like, yeah, I think like take a break. If you can ask for a break a little bit earlier, turn off damage meters. Like if you're getting insecure about your damage, yeah, turning off damage meters will certainly help a little bit too. Anything else like tangible? Like if you're getting tilted at your own play, that helps you.
Yeah, I mean, you can go into a lot of depth on this subject, but I think just like recognizing it is the first part.
Oh yeah, like, sure. I think that's good.
Don't recognizing it in a good way. Like, don't spiral and be like, oh, I'm tilted. Oh, I'm throwing. But like, at least recognize that you're tilted and be like, I shouldn't be like this. Like, I'm just raiding. I'm just playing a video game.
Take a deep breath. Just
be tilted. It is just a game. At least if you catch yourself, then you'll know to look out for it.
All right, that's it for us this week. We'll be back next week. I'm praying for class tuning. That's my fingers crossed. I'm praying for class tuning, and maybe we'll get some raid boss tuning.
Yeah, except for if they nerf Arcane or if they don't nerf the bosses.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, we'll be back next week. Later, everybody.
Peace.